Hello and welcome back to our 2013 U.S. Chess Championship coverage. We were just getting into this fascinating struggle between Tatev Abrahamyan and Irina Zenyuk in the Dragon. And what do you think, Yaz?
I don't know. Boy, I tell you, this move, Queen H2, Knight takes B2 is a wild variation. There's also Knight A3 check. Both are scary. Another defensive resource, actually, for Black that I got fascinated with on our break was that after Bishop G4, I'm trying, as Black, trying to prevent White from playing H5 and trying to pick up a tempo against this rook on D3. Fascinating. Just
Great
really,
idea.
really sharp business going on here. I'm still confused, frankly, as to what the outcome verdict should be in this game.
Well, a real treat for us and the viewer is we are going to keep a close eye on this game, and Grandmaster Ashley has some more on it.
Indeed, Jen, this is the kind of game we commentators live for, right? It's a dragon. People are trying to kill each other, attacks on both sides. It's incredible. And I was looking at this, of course, very intently with the computer to see what it thought about this position. And there's some crazy stuff in here. First of all, Knight C4, it gives his best. And this line, Queen to H2, is actually quite fascinating. If Knight takes on B2, the move H5 is playable. And if you play Rook C3, hoping to block on H3, the queen can go up to H4, according to the computer, keeping the queen in the lead. And this gives White a decisive advantage. The attack is big. It's already up to 2.86. And it looks as though Black really has no defense against what's going to happen now, because you won't be able to interpose and stop the queen from doing its due in this position, as the H file is going to open up. You see this capture will happen at some point. And the attack is coming straight down the H line, and it's very difficult, especially since this pawn is pinned to the king because of this bishop. So this line is apparently quite good for White. Going back just a little bit, the move you suggested, Yaz, bishop to G4, seems to be the best defense, according to the computer, although it still thinks that H5 will come in at some point. So crazy position, totally wild. Nobody's understanding this without deep analysis. Even the computer disagrees with itself depending on how many seconds you give it to think. So it's going to be completely difficult, extremely difficult for the players to figure this out. One thing I might add is this move G4, way back when, this pawn move, pawn up to G4, this move is known as a very imbalancing move in a position. Back in the classical days, this move just often wasn't played. People stayed much more in the center. And when you played this move G4, it's because you had a direct mating attack. But we're seeing this move, or we've seen this move actually now in the last 20 years, be played in almost any opening for almost any reason. You know, chess is about controlling the center, but G4 it is often played to maybe kick a knight off of F6, which is controlling the center, so you're indirectly controlling the center. We've seen this move in a lot of games. In a game between Feingold and Norwitz, this move was played very early on, I believe, right here, at move 10, the move G4, kicking a bishop away, was played. In another game, we see this same move was played, I believe it was, yes, in this game, Robson versus Mark Arnold. Again, as early as move 12. More typical, we see this in the Sicilian, this move G4 get played. But the caveman game for me is this between Benjamin and Akobian, a very important game for the standings. Look at this. This G4 move played in this position very early. I mean, very calm, natural-looking position. And Joel played the move G4, generating a natural response E5. And after C takes, he just marched right ahead with G5. And now the move E4 has been played, attacking his knight. This is some serious caveman stuff. White's king still in the middle of the board. Where's its home even? I mean, Joel has decided his king doesn't need a home. It's fine where it is. So we're seeing some totally unbalanced, crazy, wild games this round, continuing the theme we saw yesterday. Back to you in the studio.
Fantastic games today. I'm really excited. I mean, nothing can compete with this Tatev Irina Zenyuk game, but at some point it's going to clarify, and the rest of the games are going to blow up, right?
Exactly. Well, just what Maurice is saying, G4 has become a popular move in so many variations, and in that last game that Maurice was showing, it was a great idea of the Armenian player, Levon Aronian. I was in China, in Ningbo, playing in the World Team Championships for the U.S. team when I think it was against Hari Krishna that Levon uncorked G4 and won a beautiful model game.
Yeah, I remember that tournament. You
Right.
won against a couple, as we would call Sam Sevian, us guys there, weekies, right?
Yeah, I was throwing some patties.
That was that was a fantastic result. You beat a couple super grandmasters, right?
Including Judith Polgar on her birthday. I felt
no.
so bad about it.
Birthdays. We have to remember to mention Caden Trofe is turning 15 today.
Thank
He
you.
is the birthday boy, and we'll probably take a quick look at his game later. And I think in one of the breaks we also have his James Bond impression. He actually just starred in a music video.
No way.
Which was a TLC trio. That's a group out of Utah where Caden lives, and they were doing a cover of Skyfall by Adele.
Really?
Yes,
Oh
and it's
my
really
goodness.
cool. It's very cool, and it's nice to see Caden, working so hard on the game and also working so hard to promote jazz.
Right.
It's exactly what we need, and now is the time.
Wonderful. I just have one story. I'm sure you're going to love this one about Judith Polgar. So I was in Ningbo, China. I've played thousands of tournament games, and I'm sure that it's happened to me in the past that I've played somebody on his or her birthday, but I can't recall ever having that situation. Before the round with Judith, the arbiter, before starting the clock, said, "Welcome everybody, and let's congratulate Judith on her birthday." So there was a big applause for Judith as the game was about to begin, and Judith said to me, "Please, Yasser, you can make a present. You can remove anything you want from the board." So I was thinking, well, remember the great Bobby Fischer said that he could give night odds to any lady in the world? Until he was challenged on it, of course. The Soviets challenged him and he backed down from the challenge. But because women have made such great strides in the world of chess, I reached across the board and lifted her knight from the board so she
right?
could give me night odds. And she said, no, you're not a gentleman. I meant you have to give me a present. And so only very, very reluctantly did I give her back her knight.
Oh, very nice. Well, there is sometimes a birthday curse. Grandmaster Joel Benjamin did beat me on my birthday.
Oh.
And that was on December 31st. Usually there's not a lot of chess tournaments held that day, but this was like some bizarre party/chess tournament with like electronic music and all sorts of Burning Man art. It was an experience. We were like part of an art installation, but it was also a real game at the same time. Something that the folks over at the World Chess Hall of Fame would undoubtedly enjoy.
You're always doing something very interesting, Jennifer. You lead an adventuresome life.
Well, and what do we have in Tatev Zenyuk? Do we have any new moves in that game?
Because every move is critical in that game.
Oh, we do have a new move.
What do we have? I haven't...
It's the game right in the bottom. You just
at the
passed
very
it.
bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. She captured on G5 in this extraordinarily
So
sharp
after F4,
position.
instead of moving the knight to C4,
Which is what we expected.
She switched it up and actually took the bishop on G5, which leaves her H file totally open after H takes G5.
Absolutely.
So the queen is ready to come to H2. The only nice thing is that if you move your rook to E8, for instance, the bishop on G7 does guard against mate. But with that bishop on D5 and the pawns pushing forward, this looks like it could be really problematic for black. Where's black going to play now? Let's just play out a line. Like say black now plays knight C4. What happens then?
Okay, well you pegged
Queen
it
H2.
right on the spot.
Checkmate in one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you must play rook E8, it appears.
Let's go in and pay a visit. Check.
And now we can maybe play, okay, you're just going to take on S7, huh?
I'm threatening checkmate on the spot.
Okay, so taking on f7 totally forced. This is nice to analyze when everything is totally forced.
Precisely.
Even though it can be difficult because of vision, it's also easy because you don't have to look at the different branches, right?
Right.
So what sometimes people don't understand about great calculators is what they're good at is really more horizontal thinking than vertical thinking. They're thinking about all the possibilities in the branches. Sometimes this long type of variation can be easier.
But especially when it's so forcing, as we see right
Yes.
now.
That's what I mean. When it's forcing, there aren't many branches.
Well, this looks actually completely decisive, by the way.
So what's your threat is pawn takes g6 followed by rook f1?
Precisely.
Just and then you'd have to
going-
sacrifice your bishop on f6 basically.
And then there would be that mate
You
on
want to
F7.
show a mate? Show us a mate just for fun.
Boy,
One of many.
Let's say, I don't know, we're going to throw this rook over here perhaps?
Okay.
Okay, then we have something like check. And in case the king is forced to drop back, we have a check.
And
if
now
you
say you play king e8 instead.
Well, then I'll
That'll
just-
lead some. Well,
grab,
you could also take on h8. Yeah, that's even prettier.
much prettier. You are absolutely on the button correct. Check and mate.
That does it. And the computer says here, #1. Speaking of hashtags, U.S. Chess Champs, if you've got some tweets for us, we have some prizes to give away. And of course, the original hashtag was a moniker for it's a shortcut for checkmate.
Right,
But now it's better known for its use on Twitter.
exactly.
More popularization of chess, right?
Right. I'm just thinking that this move, knight takes g5, in a situation that we've seen where every move is absolutely critical, this move, I think, has just actually cost black the game, because after h takes g5, this threat of coming over to h2 and checkmating on the h file, really white's attack plays itself. There's nothing
Exactly. Too easy.
too easy. Maybe I'm not a big fan of this move. The only reason to play knight g4 is to stop queen h2, but this knight on g4 is no longer participating in attack against white's king, so it becomes,
And it looks a little loose.
yeah, it becomes play on one goal, I think, after this knight goes to g4.
What if we try to go really fast and just play like queen g2? How does that work out for us? Or queen e1. Maybe queen e1 is smoother.
And just
Yeah,
coming
just
up
caveman, as Maurice was saying. Cave woman, rather.
Oh, well,
Cave girl,
there you
cave
go.
woman.
Okay, well, queen h4 is the big threat. Let's see what I can do to prepare myself. So I'll make luft for my king. Off you'll come to h4 probably anyway.
Sure, that's the plan.
Okay.
And then I guess in order to save yourself, you'll have to play something like e6 so that after king f8, our f5 move doesn't just crush like it did before.
Exactly. So I don't know if I should toss in a rook c3 anywhere, but let's just go with e6 so we can see what a variation might look like. Shall we go in with a check?
I think so, because taking on g4 allows black to take back on d5, right? So that knight might be hanging, but after taking on d5, I think we have lost more than we have gained.
Right. That trade probably appeases black. Getting rid of that bishop on d5 for that knight on g4 has to be in the favor of the second
And
player.
just clarifying things in lines, so black kind of knows where to hide. And so now after king to f8, our candidate moves. I mean, black actually might be like holding on here in a way because the bishop on h8 stops against the mates. F5, you're pointing out.
Just to
F5
try
looks
to-
dangerous, though. We should try F5.
Right, just to blast at black's king. We've seen this before. Trying to open the F file is also scary.
Yank
for the
open that
second
F file
player.
and deliver
exactly,
mate.
Exactly. Sack mate, the old Bobby line. Well, I don't know. I think that knight g4 probably is a required move, but boy, it sure is looking bad, in my opinion, for black in this game.
And from a practical point of view, very difficult for black to play because
Yes.
now she's not attacking and she's got to look at 100 different ideas by Tatev, and it's going to be very difficult for her to defend this. Now, shall we look at another game?
Just before we leave, one
Sure.
other point that the computer makes, and it's a very obvious point. I should have made it myself earlier. F4, F5 in preparation for swinging the queen over to the h file is also exceedingly strong, because you're setting up threats like f5 takes g6 and just blowing up the bunker on the king side over here. So f4, f5 looks also as a decisive attacking move for white.
Wow, just a fantastic position for white, and just much easier to play. So Tatev Abrahamian with 2.5 points, looking to add another win to her record and perhaps challenge the frontrunner, Irina Krush.
Exactly. Speaking of attacking the front runners, we haven't seen it for a while. Larry Christensen, I actually liked his game very much. There was against John Bryant, in this very standard opening for black, John made a very provocative move with his knight c6. I think most players would simply have castled at that precise moment, tucking the king away. But knight c6 provoked Larry, and you don't need much to provoke Larry. Larry took advantage of the moment to play d5, attacking the knight, and after the trade of pawns, queen e7 check, bishop e2, knight e5 castles by Larry, castles, d5, d6 was played.
This is what you want when you play d4 in the first move, right?
Oh my gosh, look at that pass pawn go. Queen f6, knight takes e5, queen takes e5.
So fortunately, d7, fortunately for black, d7 doesn't quite work. Not because of rook d8, which would allow captures making a queen, and you're unable to recapture on d2.
Right.
Because of the pin.
Right.
So instead of that, though, black has a much better reply. After d7, you can simply take the pawn on d7, take the offender, and after queen d7, the bishop on e2 hangs, and this is certainly not what Larry wants. Now totally dry.
Yes, black has equalized. So we go back to the game, and Larry didn't play the move d7, instead played this little move rook e1, anticipating that he'll get a discovered attack
and threatening d7, because now our our bishop would be protected.
Exactly.
So bishop e6, and now bishop
f3.
f3.
And have we caught up with the players?
Yes, we have.
I like white's position very much, because obviously I'm nibbling a pawn over here, and at the same time this pawn on d6 is the most important pawn in the position. So Larry's a big favorite right now in this game, and very meaningful for the leaders' standings in the leadership of the tournament.
So tough defensive task here for John Bryant. And now we have Maurice Ashley with the move of the round so far.
Well, we're seeing some fighting games everywhere, even in openings where you don't suspect that they would explode. In this position between Alexander Shabalov and Alex Onischuk, usually white, Shabalov is the one who likes to play these crazy lines. And here Onischuk playing what looks like a solid line, but they're about to explode. The move b5 was played, defending this pawn on c4. And after rook to d1, knight to b4, not even finishing his development as yet. And the move b3 was played. And now after captures, you thought you'd expect a normal move, but instead the move d5, trying to crack open the center. And after captures, the move e5, now down 3 pawns is white, trying to break through in the center somehow. And black, with all this chaos on the board, a piece under attack, decides to do what? Simply castle. How you like them apples? Total madness on the board right now. And of course, the computer is calmly saying that it's dead equal, 0.00. Yaz, I know you love these computers and their evaluations.
No, I don't. I mean,
some water on that guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, totally explosive position, massive imbalance, pawns being sacrificed, as Maurice mentioned, and the computer just coming to this conceptual idea that the position's dead even. Just makes me shake my head in frustration, like, do I understand chess? I mean, no, I don't. I mean, it's just too hard at times. So, amazingly enough, Shabalov, 3 pawns down, hasn't captured the piece, and instead calmly plays this move a2, a3. That was the last move that was played in this game. Pardon me, oops, I've got to work on my arrows. Threatening to capture this knight, and one day certainly capturing this knight. Wow, it just looks, it's wild. I don't even know where to begin trying to analyze these imbalanced positions. It's just crazy, crazy stuff.
Another imbalanced position, we have Benjamin's game. And we actually have
Joel's?
Yes, we have a question from one of our listeners here and viewers. And I really cannot even pronounce this Twitter handle. It's Soldavia Cat. All right. Well, he asks, why not GH in Benjamin's game on the 15th move?
Okay, we'll bring that game up onto our screen. Again, this idea in the Lasker defense to the Queen's Gambit declined G4 as introduced by Levon Eronian in Nimbao, China, has created this situation. And in what move did he like? GH?
He was asking about 15 GH, sacrificing the knight on F3. So sacrifices in the air today.
I know.
So just taking on H6 here.
Right.
And allowing taking on F3.
Right.
And okay, so I assume the idea is something with Rook G1 or takes on G7, just breaking open the king position. Queen F3 maybe to start, and then just it looks with the idea that, for instance, like if you were to play Queen F3,
right,
and then if Black were, not that they should, but if Black were to take on H6,
okay,
and we were to play Queen H5 or Rook G1 check maybe to start.
Okay, Rook G1 check. I guess the king is going to go to the corner. King
and then
H8.
Then if we go to H5, now we've got our attack. Although it seems like Queen F6 defends matters, does it not?
It certainly does that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think that Joel really wants to go for this because you've got a couple pawns, but
Black has adequate resources, it seems to me.
It seems like it.
He could be playing for Rook G8 in order to just trade off this very aggressive Rook on G1. But go back for a second, because the sacrifice actually is very intriguing. What would have happened in this position? You leave this pawn. I'm trying to coordinate an attack in a different manner.
It feels wrong to me, though. It feels like the best that White's getting out of this is some kind of perp. And I think White should do better than that. Like, even that position we were just looking at with the queen coming to F6, it seems like White might, in the best case scenario, be able to play something like bishop to G6, and then, we're playing queen H6, and maybe we'll get some kind of perk out of it. Like bishop, like say we played bishop D3 here. Maybe like bishop G6 is an idea, and queen takes H6 and rook G6, etc. But it seems like the best we'll get there is a perpetual.
Agreed, and I do think that rook G8 probably is in the favor of Black. Not sacrificing the piece, which was Joel's decision, sure looks apropos to my eyes. I mean,
yes, I like that better.
You are threatening to come over here, queen H5, and we might be able to drum up a very serious attack in this case without being a piece down.
Right, and you got to be careful. Okay, in some of those variations, maybe White could have bailed out and played something like rook takes C8 and queen G4 check and at least won an exchange back.
Right.
But I think you got to be careful when you're trying to arrange an attack and you only have two minor pieces. If you sacrifice one of them, you just might not have enough wood for the fire.
Precisely. Precisely right. Well, this still looks like a promising position to my eyes for Joel. I wonder if Ramirez can really make this challenge work. I was just looking at a line that goes like this. I don't know about rook H5, but the idea, at least from Black's point of view, is to come down here, pinning the bishop to the king. If you take the pawn, which everybody would like, knight F6, and maybe it's Black on the counter attack that might carry the day for him.
Well,
real turnaround.
A lot of energy in today's games. And we have Grandmaster Ashley with another crazy G-pawn maneuver in the Cats Bahinskaite game.
Jen, there's some kind of G-pawn disease going around. I don't know. Everybody's catching the bug because the G-pawn is becoming the star of the day. This one, though, looks extraordinarily dubious. You look at this position here, you see a very natural position for black. Everything looks normal. It looks like you might think about castling. Actually, even more spectacular move was the move knight to c5. Because if this pawn takes this knight, then queen takes on d3, and the knight to c5 would have been a very strong move, and the computer approves of this move for black as black's best option at the moment. Knight c5 would have been a great move. Instead, the young Elena Katz, now residing in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, went Brooklyn on her and played g5. And unfortunately, this one just looks bad. I mean, this king does not have a stable home anymore, and this g-pawn, I'm not even sure what exactly it's doing. I know these g-pawn moves have become much more popular, much more fashionable, but in this circumstance, it looks like it's just should have stayed back home.
The G-pawn has gone viral. That's what it seems like today's round, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
remarkable.
Well, a lot of popularization of these G-pawn openings. It seems like it comes up in so many different constellations, and like D4 openings, of course, in Sicilians, and it is definitely catching on more and more. But a lot of the time, it's just weakening.
Well, thank goodness, because the classical school of chess is keep your flank pawns, especially those in front of your king, at home, so your king remains safe.
Here's a good example. For instance, if black were to play g5 in this position, if it were black's move, that would have very few positives and a lot of negatives. So this is kind of like that's why we like get so excited when people play g4, because it's really the exception.
Yes, yes, and it draws our attention. I'm fascinated by the game between the two Alexes. Shabalov as white, Onishuk, our third seed, as black. I was just looking at a variation that would go knight c6, captures on f6, bishop takes f6, and now rook takes d5, winning a pawn. And from white's point of view, if he could just get the moves bishop b2 and rook over in, he'd have an excellent, excellent game, maybe even close to winning. I've been looking at the move queen e8 for just a moment. With this bishop firing down against this knight on c3, it's hard to say, well, it's been hard to say since the start of this game what's going on, and I still find myself utterly flummoxed, confused.
Oh, indeed.
After, for example, queen takes e8, rook takes e8, rook c5, defending the knight, trying to attack the knight. These natural moves, which I've just played on the board, the computer starts to favor black just by playing natural moves. So Shabalov's going to have to come up with something very extra special to win.
Very strange position indeed. The odd type of positional compensation. You know, we're used to like these slash and burn sacrifices which lead to a concrete line, and here it's a little bit more permanent.
Yeah, well, here we go. I mean, modern chess today has become all about the initiative, who has the initiative, and how to make it a purposeful one and turning it into a material advantage. Very sharp, crazy games.
Exactly. Some of the principles of before, no double pawns, you know, capture towards the center. It's funny how often grandmasters ignore these rules in order to get piece activity and dynamism, which tends to be the ruling principles these days. And now we've got our game between Christensen and Bryant, in which Larry has a very big advantage, you know, getting his pawn to d6. You know, this is the kind of thing where we would sacrifice a pawn to get this beautiful pawn on d6, and then things might be equal,
right?
Theoretically, but the fact that we have it and we sacrifice nothing, it's got to be great for white.
Exactly. Well, this fortunately is the kind of calm chess I truly can appreciate. Being a pawn ahead and having this massive passed pawn on d6. The last move by Larry was rook takes b7, winning a pawn. bringing a rook to the 7th, which we all aspire with our rooks, and also going after this third, after another pawn, the a7 pawn. Rook c3 was played. Larry Christensen really in the driver's seat in this game. He only has to look out for one cheapo type of tactic where maybe his king is a bit exposed. This move, rook c3, telegraphs the intention of black to sacrifice the exchange.
I mean, even that probably wouldn't lead to anything after rook b3. Oh, you do have your bishop on b3, sorry. So, yeah, it's true. We'd have to, after rook f3, takes on f3, queen, I don't believe this is going to work. We could probably play queen e3 or rook e3, just something that gets to the d3 square to stop all the attack. And then we're just up an exchange and a pawn. Oh, I don't get it. I don't think you can really play rook f3 in too many variations. But maybe you're right, just like the hidden possibility of it gives black some counterplay.
Right.
I don't think so. I mean, this just looks really bad.
Really
How did
bad.
they get this bad? Did he have to give up that pawn on b7?
I think he did.
He had no way to defend it, basically, huh?
Well, essentially, after the move rook b1, if you don't let the rook come down here on the b7 square, then the bishop is simply going to come down on the b7 square. I mean, John Bryant could have played rook b8, but I'm thinking either rook takes or bishop takes. White's going to be a whole pawn up with no compensation that I can see, none visible to my eyes.
Anti-compensation, I would think.
Yeah.
As we call it. But we've got another crazy G-pawn push in the women's championship.
I don't get it. I don't get it. They must all have gotten the memo. Now, we know Rex Singfield, who's the sponsor of the tournament and the club, and who has done quite a bit to change the world of chess. He's now actually in the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame for his generosity in the field of chess. He loves the move g4, Jen. I know you coach him and you try to get him not to play g4, but he's going to get you today because everybody's playing g4. Look at this position here. It looks like a very calm position between Nee and Zatonsky. Zatonsky having lost yesterday, probably trying to get back in the swing of things. And a natural move to my eyes is a move like queen to d3, very normal, setting up this nice attack on this diagonal here. Maybe someday, get a mating attack going. No. Victoria decides it's time to play g4. Is it never a time to play g4? Yes. What is going on?
It's gone viral. What can I say, Maurice? G4. That's what's happening.
Well, White's castled, so I guess that means it's a good idea to play g4. But don't worry about Rex. I've got somebody blindfolding him at any moment that the g-pawn is pushed. So he won't be adversely affected by these crazy ladies. And
we haven't looked at the board one for the ladies in some
Ladies.
time. Let me just bring up the game
the
between
leader, Irina
Krush as white against Angelina Belovskaya.
And Angelina, by the way, has 2 points out of 3, so she's doing quite well herself after not playing many U.S. Women's Championships.
And didn't she lose the first game and now has won 2 on the trot?
That's right.
So she's
she lost
hot.
to Anna Zatonsky, so she lost to one of the strongest players in the field.
Right. And we have this after d7, d6. This formation became known as the Botvinnik triangle position. And while black has given her opponent a fantastic outpost on d5, the pawns on c5 and e5 control a lot of squares. Angelina didn't follow up with the normal d7, d6. Instead, play this, what appears to me a very hyper-aggressive f7, f5. I don't approve. Normally with black, you try to play solid out of the opening, but okay, she has something very concrete in mind. Cagey move, bishop e7. We'll have to ask Angelina her thoughts behind that. Bishop g2, knight f6, castles, castles. a2, a3. Irina borrowing a page from my own junior days where I enjoyed playing a3, rook b1, and b4 a great deal.
My dad has a famous quote about that. He liked to jokingly say, Yasser plays a3, b4, rook b1 every game, and they call him a genius.
That's right. Shout out to Mike. Thanks for all your support, Mike. Rook b1, rook b8. Now that's a little bit of a surprise for me. Rook b8. Again, I've been expecting Angelina to play d7, d6, and bring her bishop out if possible.
Yeah, after prefacing it, making sure the knight g5 isn't too juicy. She might do that with king h8 or with h6.
Exactly.
Both have their pros and cons.
But how does the inclusion of rook b8 help that strategy? I'm mystified. Okay, rook b8 was played. Queen e8. Well, this is obvious evil intentions of queen h5 and f5, f4, and bishop h3 check and mate. Angelina is just bringing her club today.
Yeah, just a reverse Grand Prix type of setup.
With f5. Okay, well, Irina had seen enough, jumped into the outpost knight d5, hoping to reduce some of the firewood. Bishop d6.
Very creative play by Belikovskaya, but against such a classical player like Irina, I don't know if she's going to be phased here.
Yeah,
I have some concerns here.
Yeah, this looks like Black is simply asking too much of her position, and the inclusions of these moves, bishop d6 and rook b8, really don't make a harmonious feeling. Let's put it that way. e4, my goodness! Now I'm really I'm confused. I love this fianchetto bishop on this diagonal, so the move e4 would not have been attracted to me. I would have thought, frankly, about the move knight h4, going after this pawn on f5, and hoping to
E3,
meet
yeah.
queen h5 with e3, just putting an end to any of those kingside attacking
Exactly,
ambitions.
and your pieces are so awkwardly placed for the endgame. So Irina would be certainly happy to get an endgame after queen h5, e3.
Without
so yeah,
question.
knight h4 seems like a pretty good try. Maybe Angelina would have simply pushed the pawn to f4 upon knight h4.
Knight h4, f4, very reasonable move, as you point out. Something that Angelina wants to do anyway. But after e3, it seems to me like White's pieces are coming more and more into play faster than Black's.
Yeah,
After all, that bishop on c8 sure is not overwhelming anyone, is it?
No, the lack of harmony here is really notable. Like we're playing without our bishop on c8, which tends to be a really key attacker in this line.
Right.
Because normally we're trying to get a queen h5, bishop h3, knight g4 thing going. Here we've got our bishop dormant, and I would even think like maybe bishop b8 followed by d6, but the rook's in the way. Not that would have been good anyway, but just saying, it's like the rook on b8 actually cuts off one of the bishop's retreating squares, which could be annoying in some variations.
Well, let's see what Irina had in mind. She is the tournament leader for good reason.
And now with take on
E2,
e4,
we see this move b5.
okay. Well,
Okay,
at least now she's trying to solve the problem of her two rotten pieces on b8 and c8. So when she plays b5, she opens up the rook and the bishop.
Right. Well, imagine this one. How's this for a tricky idea? How about after e4, White says, listen, I think I'm doing great with your bishop on c8. How about a move like knight g5? Ooh, inviting Black to accept a gambit pawn. Queen is attacking over here. Notice that this bishop on d6, by the way, has no defenders. This might just be very good for
And knight
White.
takes f6, huge threat. No time to play knight takes d5 because it's checkmate on the spot. Let's show them that. I'm trying to get as many checkmates as possible in the broadcast.
You're doing pretty good. I mean, over the course of these 4 days, you've gotten many different styles of checkmate.
Sometimes falling into them, usually trying to create them.
Here, of course, the knight protects the queen as well as preventing the king's escape by covering the square f7. So we go back. Angelina didn't capture on e4, and perhaps knight g5 is what dissuaded her. b5 was played. Now knight takes f6. Oh my goodness. Okay. Still having... Oh, finally, I understand. Capturing on f5, keeping that diagonal open for the bishop, and maybe one time, at some future point, using the e4 square as an outpost. I must say I much prefer White's position at this exact moment. and Irina to play. Again, I find myself drawn to this move knight g5 simply so I can open up the bishop to go to d5. I can also bring my bishop to the e4 square, attacking the rook and going after the pawn on h7. I really like this for white. Just everything about it is much, much more harmonious for the first player than the second.
I agree, and I think Irina excels in these types of situations, and you know, maybe her opponents are trying to catch her off guard because they know that she's well prepared, but sometimes the best way to meet a stronger player is to, as Yermolinsky used to say, stand on the shoulder of giants and play more classical openings so that, you know, you can kind of challenge them in their theory.
I always like the classicals. I mean, classics, I know them very well. By the way, Irina, showing her positional prowess, has in fact played the move knight g5, putting Angelina under direct pressure. Angelina's facing two big threats, bishop e4 and bishop d5 check. And our tournament leader in the women's section, Irina Krush, doing very well here during round 4.
Fantastic start here for Irina Krush, and looks like she might just increase her score to 4-0.
Right. A game on board 1, again, Gada Kamsky, the only player, in the championships with a perfect score. When we have left the game, we left it, I liked this move go back a moment. I liked this move f5 very much by Gada, followed by c5. And at this point, I felt that Gada's opening problems were all behind him. That is to say, he had equalized comfortably, captures. He took with the pawn. I had mentioned that knight takes c5, playing to secure this outpost e4 looked quite promising. He took with the pawn in order that he could support e5 and e4, what you liked, getting that kingside majority rolling and also having a center majority. The game continued. Bishop g7, queen d2, direct threat against the knight. Gada covered that with rook e7. And again, we see Gada classically playing through the center. He's clearly eyeballing the e6, e5, getting that e-pawn rolling. b4. Well, we can understand this move. White has his own majority on the queen side that's not very active, but b4, I'm not sure I really like that move, but all right. e5 takes, knight takes c5. Frankly, this position just simply looks ideal for black.
Looks like a dream, huh?
Yeah, if I could get these types of positions, I'll be playing the Slav all day.
And Gada also has twice as much time as an opponent, so.
So Gada cruising here. Queen came to a5, attacking the knight on c5. That was a simple move. Rook c8, supporting the knight. Rook b1, okay, we understand. Rooks belong on open files, and Conrad hoping for a cheapo, as we would say in the barbaric Northwest. A cheapo is a tactic which our opponent allows us to make a tactic from time to time. Oh boy, now that move is quite deep. Rook on e7 to e8. I think it would have taken me a while to come around to thinking of that as the candidate move.
Just to prevent rook d8, huh?
Preventing perhaps, well, rook d8, yes, but boy, okay, you saw it right away. I didn't think that rook d8 was a threat, but rook e8, Gada's choice.
Might not be a threat, but maybe he doesn't want to go, he might not have wanted to go for that wholesale trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, for example, would you have
Oh,
been,
actually, yeah, I guess no. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I might have found myself attracted to this move, bishop e4, putting some pressure or attacking the rook directly. And we're talking about the G-pawn virus. I start looking for some strange reason. Maybe it's in the water. thinking even about g5, g4. But okay, Gata played rook d8. Let's just see how the game continued. Knight d2, okay, immediately taking e4 under advisement, and knight b3. I like this maneuver by Conrad because I do think this knight on c5 is simply too powerful. So let's get rid of that. And the knight has dropped back to e6, by the way, with ideas like knight f4 attacking the bishop and eyeballing the g2 pawn. And c5, preparing bishop c4.
But is that a weakness or a strength? I mean, is Gata just going to round that guy up?
I think we're going to find out right away.
I'm not
So
too-
c5. Okay, so bishop c4.
Wait.
White thing, I've got ideas too. It's not on all on
True,
one
and
goal.
also a6 is hanging now.
Copy that. Bishop takes
I mean,
a6.
there's rook a8 in some positions, but I guess it just depends on the exact situation.
Well, you know me. I'm a big pawn grubber, but here I would look for activity if I were in white shoes. And rook d6 and moves like bishop c5 are very compelling.
Well, maybe this is a good move then, because it looked like white just wasn't getting very much play. Speaking of exciting play, we've got
Shall
an
we?
update on our pet dragon
Oh,
with
lovely.
Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Okay.
How to Train a Dragon. I love that movie. Well, in this case, How to Tame a Dragon. It looks as though Tatev, playing boldly with white, missed a big opportunity to crush black. And you should see these lines. I can't believe the stuff the computer's coming up with. In this position, the pawn went to b4 to attack the knight. And according to the computer, the best move was to actually give away this knight on a4. And after bishop takes, simply capture on g6. And it just looks like a lock on black's position. The position is starting to become overwhelming. This pawn under heavy pressure. You can't really block this diagonal because after a capture here, the bishop crashes through. So this wouldn't be good for black. But the variation that's got me mystified is this one. The computer is saying maybe the best line now is bailout time. Queen takes and bring this knight back to this square. And check this out. Best way to play? Sacrifice the queen. Excuse me. Let me back up just 1 second. First, it's capturing with check, and then bring the knight back as the line. And then sacrifice the queen and takes, and then take on f7 with check, take again, and end up a full exchange and a pawn after this capture. It's just an exchange, but it's two rooks and the pawn. He thinks this is the best line. Looks like it's winning for white. Crazy, crazy line. Tatev decided to sidestep all this stuff and just play the mild move, knight back to e2. And here the computer is saying, oh, she just has a slight edge if pawn takes pawn. I know you understand this stuff, Yas. I really don't.
No, I don't think we can believe that slight edge, because that slight edge, I feel, is predicated on black finding a series of super accurate defensive moves. Mm-hmm. That's why I think it's misleading. I think that white has a much bigger than slight edge in a practical game.
Right.
She's playing a computer, sure, but you know, this is chess where, you know, everybody's under a ton of pressure. We don't have unlimited time. It's very different, and I think that black is in trouble in this game.
Yes, and although knight takes a4 was a awkward, very difficult move to find, these sacrifices with capturing on g6 in that dragon game are so common and typical that I would have expected something like f takes g6.
Let's take a look at the game. I think I just saw something happen on f2.
All right. I just
we
wanted
got
to
the
say
webcam on these.
on the Gata-Kamsky game, I am expecting Gata-Kamsky to play e3, pawn takes, queen e3, initiating an attack on white's king. Let's go to the
Ooh, yeah, we've seen this before.
Taming the Dragon. Gotta like that. Okay.
I like that movie too, How to Train Your Dragon. I was like, is this a chess, the first mainstream chess movie that's come out in a while? We're gonna have some grandmasters talking about chess openings.
Exactly.
And then I saw that it was a cartoon.
but a good one, a very good animation.
But we might have a mainstream chess movie. We've got a couple. I mean, there's Brooklyn Castle. I heard there's a Cuba Gooding Jr. movie that might be coming out soon. And then I also heard, which is exciting for me as a promoter of women in chess, is that Disney is doing a movie about Fiona Mutesi, the girl from Uganda who became a very strong chess player. And there was a great book of her, Queen of Katwe.
Right, and then, isn't Hollywood going to do a biopic on Bobby Fischer as well?
Yes, yes.
Spider-Man
Exactly.
himself going to play
Yeah.
Bobby the lead role. Wow.
So we're going to have a lot of premieres to go to, yes.
Exactly. Hey, I look forward. I'm a big movie
And
fan.
maybe we'll have some new students too. People are going to love chess after all these movies.
Yay.
And we've got
Knight
Knight E2 occurred, right? And then we have Knight F2, or Rook D5 first, and then Knight F2.
Right. So
Okay.
this is the position on the board, but the computer is screaming that white has an overwhelming advantage here. So there must be a very powerful tactical shot, or simply grabbing material is the computer considers the position extremely favorable for white.
Let's try to figure it out. So what would we start with here? I just want to try to checkmate you on the H file. So let's try to move our queen in that direction. Like, say we just play Queen F4, and then if you take on D1, we will just play Queen H4.
Anyway.
And then I think the issue here might be, okay, so you got to do your typical Rook E8 move, right?
Right.
Because that's the only way out.
Okay. Are we going in with a check?
Yeah, and then after, Knight E6, okay. I wasn't sure about taking on G6 first, but yeah, this looks,
Okay.
no, go ahead. If you think Knight E6 is good, Knight E6,
I was trying to open up the F file by force
yeah.
with this Rook F1, and I'm saying hashtag checkmate in 7, the computer says. Black cannot avoid getting checkmated in this line, so your opening salvo, Queen Sally, Queen F4 is right on the button, Jen, and computer really likes this move. The move also that I like, oftentimes when I'm attacking, I want to make sure that everybody's invited to the party. I can see this knight on E2 is not participating in the attack, but after this move, Knight F4, with a similar idea that you have proposed, bring your queen over to the H file and the attack plays itself, right? So you could have something similar to that line that we just saw, and maybe this move Knight G6 or even Knight E6 really just is killing as well, right? The same type of thing. In this case, you have to take with the bishop, and this looks.
And again, the problem is like trying to bail out with Bishop F6, giving back some material. There's just Queen F7 mate.
Precisely.
Wow, so we've got some beautiful headshots here of both players, but I guess only one player will be smiling after this game.
Right, and it looks to be the white player, Tatiev, who is, as we've mentioned at the opening of the show, only a mere half point behind Irina Krush.
Although actually, to be fair, I should say that Irina Zenyuk always seems to be smiling, except when she's playing chess. So I have a feeling that when we do see her analyzing all these beautiful variations, she actually will be smiling. And that's a hallmark of people who really love chess, that they're serious at the game. They might be upset for a few minutes afterwards, but then it's post-mortem and just getting into it and enjoying the game.
True, true. I mean, the reality is when you play chess, it's all about taking risks. And even if you're the best, even if you're the world champion, sometimes you simply play like an idiot and you have a loss or two that hurts, but you overcome it very quickly.
It's tough playing the dragon in a tournament where people get to prepare for you for weeks and months in advance. You know, it's like, I think sometimes you need another opening up your sleeve when you know that your opponent thinks you're going to play the dragon, just to try to catch them off guard.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's double-edged. The dragon is a very double-edged system. I'm pulling up on our board two of our most promising junior players, and as we know, Ray Robson is a local, goes to Webster College. As Susan Polgar mentioned yesterday, that she came out to support Ray, but Ray had a bad day yesterday. Here, when Maurice has been explaining the G pawn virus has taken over, and after G4, Maurice obviously expected G5 by black. How's that? Like everybody getting in on the action with their G pawns today in today's round 4 of the U.S. Championship, Rook F1. And the clever idea of Mark Arnold is that he wanted to secure the E5 square, as we see countless times in Sicilians, for his knight. Queen takes, H6, H4, knight E5, there he goes. Knight is awesome on the E5 square as it protects F7 pawn. And G5, interesting. Knight G4. Boy, I think my hand, I couldn't have prevented myself from playing a move like H6 takes G5 here, only because I like the idea of opening up the file for my rook. Mark Arnold felt that knight G4 was best. The bishop dropped back to D2. Now he captured. Ooh. Jen, would you have captured that bishop on D3?
Well, that knight on E5 looks fantastic, but that being said, if there could be a concrete reason for it. Maybe he just wants to put his other knight there. You know, what they call the superfluous knight. So he thought maybe after knight takes D3, knight E5, threatening knight to D3, check. Maybe he assessed that was good for black.
Okay.
Or the best that black can do. So what would white do here? We don't want to protect that pawn with our king. We probably want to move our bishop rather on D2 to protect it. Well, I would think, like with bishop E3 or something.
Don't forget that knight on E5 is stretched. It's got its duty, defensive duty, protecting the pawn on F7.
So you're just going to play king B1?
Right.
Which is a move that you kind of wanted to play anyway.
Precisely, and Ray did take that opportunity to play king B1. Just also, by the way, the rook may just slide over to the C file where it would be on an open file and threaten a discovery against the queen. Rook F8, by the way, now does open up knight takes D3. Queen drop back to G3 to protect the pawn on D3. Rook G8. Interesting decision by Mark. And Rook C1. So now, with this nasty move Rook C1, the move Knight D5 starts to be extremely attractive. Oh boy.
Well, now maybe black wants to play Queen D8, attacking G5, but that looks bad.
Seizing the defensive?
Yeah, I mean, we are attacking something, but this retreating move I'm just not so sure about. Right. Even if white just plays...
Like when did you become a pawn grubber? I mean, bishop
After
takes
analyzing
G5.
with you for 3 days.
that explains it, but you are walking into a pin. You take that pawn, you may feel your fingers scorched a little bit. Bishop takes G5 does walk into a nasty pin.
After Rook G1, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this knight on E5 is actually too dominant. My knight on B3 does not impress. How about a move like knight D4 inviting you to capture this? The idea, straightforward as it is I want to get rid of this knight on E5. If I can provoke you to trade, I have exposed this D6 pawn.
Right.
And that
And
looks
if I don't
good.
trade and I play F6 instead...
You mean here? Just simply F7, F6. Oh boy, oh boy.
I'm losing something, I see. I guess you can take on G5 with the bishop. But then maybe at that point, take on F3? Oh, no. Doesn't look too good.
I
Just
think
take on G5 with the... Oh, you're taking with the knight.
I think you've set yourself up for a major slash
Disasters,
and burn.
yes.
Yeah, with exchange sacrifice.
This looking pretty good for Ray, and we've got Maurice Ashley with a scratch your head moment.
Uh-oh.
Indeed, Jen, we had a wild position that we were following in Shabalov versus Onishchuk, and we know Shabalov is an aggressive player, a forward-thinking player, not the kind of guy to stop when he's in the middle of an attack unless it's absolutely called for. But in this game, he played a move that's gotten me scratching my head. In this position, he did take the knight, And Yasser, you had liked in this position the move rook takes on d5, which the computer approves of as well. Instead, he backed down and played the move bishop to b2. And that slowing down the attack and allowing this d-pawn to stay on the board is decidedly frowned on by the computer. And now the move rook to e8, queen d2 has been played in the game, and now this d-pawn gets its revenge. d4 marching down the board, it's cemented in the position. Knight to e2 has been played, and we're waiting now, but the computer likes bishop to g4, setting up all kinds of action on this diagonal, and this d-pawn may be a big curse. Now, in White's position, he would have wished he had gotten rid of it. One line to show is if the move h3, trying to get rid of this bishop, this variation fails badly after knight e5. And if you move your bishop back, suddenly knight to c4, and the queen cannot hang on to everything. This d-pawn, again, looking to march down the board. Well, even that, rook takes knight is possible. So why did he play bishop to b2 instead of rook takes d5? We're going to have to ask him after the game. But maybe a bad loss for him. Things starting to turn in Black's favor. Jen and Yas?
That pawn structure, by the way, reminds me of the game that Shabalov won against Jorge Hasbun earlier in the tournament when we thought Shabalov was lost, and he admitted he actually got lucky in that game. And here he is, back to the same thing, same type of tactics, but I totally agree with Maurice. Grabbing that d-pawn with a tempo earlier looked obligatory. I mean, this is just not a very nice position for White. And that line, I just wanted to point out another nice little tactical variation was that if in this case, after knight e5, attacking the bishop, if you were to play knight takes d4, cleverly, one might think, defending the bishop, you can see this one, Jen.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
give up the lady, right?
This is a tactic you see in a lot of books on double attack.
Right, and for my lectures with the children especially, they just love the so-called royal fork. Knight on f3 attacking White's king and queen simultaneously. Black would win the game instantly in this line of play. So I think Shabalov's in deep trouble here.
And we do have a result alert. Grandmaster Larry Christensen has defeated John Bryant and moves to 3 out of 4. So despite losing a game to Gatakomsky, Larry Christian very much in the hunt with 3 wins. And, you know, it's very hard to rack up 3 wins in this tournament. It's the U.S. Championship. Everyone is out to get you.
And
so
he's playing tough opposition, too. Big Larry coming through swashbucklingly here. I know that John was doing poorly out of the opening, but this move, bishop d5, really secured the win.
Seals the deal, yeah.
Seals the
That
deal.
pawn's just a goner. Home run there for Larry Christensen. And while we get him set up, I'm going to take a little Twitter question for you, Yasser, and
Okay.
that's at the hashtag US Chess Champs.
Okay.
The question is, Yasser, I saw you playing the U.S. Championship in South Bend, Indiana in 1981. Can you comment on how this event has changed since then?
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, I'm very, very pleased and delighted to say I think it's just gotten better and better and better. The U.S. Championships, as we know, this is the 5th year in a row. They've found a home in St. Louis. And I can tell you that the organizers here take this event so seriously. A month of preparation went into the layout, the actual setup of our operations, the whole internet revolution and what that meant for the broadcasting of the games in real time, live. It's marvelous to see this evolution taking place in the U.S. Championship.
So you're saying that in 1981 you didn't have Twitter followers asking you questions?
That's right. Amazingly enough, I didn't. And I just really enjoy what the internet has meant for the broadcast of chess. Oftentimes, chess and television haven't married well. The internet is perfect, just perfect. You can archive all the games, play them over at your convenience. instant access. It's just marvelous.
Well, and also the TV tip is going well as well. Fox Sports Midwest is going to be doing a 1-hour show on this championship, and of course you can also find the live stream on their website.
I can't wait to see the 1-hour show. I know we've captured enormous amounts of archive videotape. It's going to be a fun show. Please watch.
And let's hand it over to Grandmaster Maurice Ashley, who is with Larry Christensen.
Thank you, Jen. Well, we're here with Larry Christensen. Big Lar, congratulations on your victory today.
Thank you.
John Bryant had been doing quite well in this tournament, fabulously well, in fact,
Right.
as a FIDE master.
Right.
But today he played a bit of a howler, it looks like.
Yeah, he made an early mistake and he never recovered. I mean, I just got the initiative, which led to a win of a pawn plus a dominating position. He may have put up a slightly tougher resistance, but the game was in the bag pretty early.
Were you shocked when you saw this move, knight c6? Yasser and I were thinking.
I was pleasantly
castles?
surprised, not shocked.
Pleasantly surprised. The right answer.
Right.
Well, this turned out to be a very easy game. 25 moves, not much to sweat.
Just with the doctor orders.
Especially coming
Right.
off yesterday. That
Yeah.
must have been really disappointing. You seem to have a decent position with a lot of fighting chances yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I think he had a tremendous game. Well,
This is against
I think
Gadakomsky.
Against Gada, he played very passively in the opening. I got a nice position. There's some endgame artists, squeeze artists like Yasser. I wish I could have tag team. Hey, Yasser, you take over from here. He would have put that game away, I think. And then I overlooked a little tactic. It got very messy. I don't know what was going on. I didn't bother analyzing it. I don't want to, revisit bad memories. It was a tough, game. I don't like reading the comments, any of that stuff. That's all history. Try to move on from there.
Indeed. So you came back with a smashing victory.
Yeah.
You're now on 3 out of 4, which puts you right back in the hunt.
Right.
How are you feeling about your prospects moving forward?
Well, it's still early in the tournament. I'm guardedly optimistic. I just have to. Today, I'm going to rest. Maybe go to the gym for an hour or half an hour. Maybe to walk in the park. This was a walk in the park too.
Indeed.
But a real walk in the park, and sorry, John, and just take it easy after that.
Well, some days they get you, and some days you get them.
I have to confess, yesterday after losing, I visited Lester's briefly, and
Had a few brewskis?
Yeah, well, a couple, yeah, not too many.
All right, well, congratulations on your victory today, and best of luck in the rest of the tournament.
Thank you, Maurice.
All right, back to you, Jen and Yas.
It's just wonderful to see a veteran like Larry of so many U.S. championships. He doesn't play draws. Draws are for sissies. 3 wins out of 4. Outstanding. Really great to see that.
Yes, wonderful. So Grandmaster Larry Christensen, our young veteran, with
There you
3
go.
out of 4, our very young-spirited veteran. Now, speaking of youth, we've got birthday boy Caden Trofe, turning 15 today, facing off against Alexander Ivanov, who is the senior champion. That's how he got into this tournament.
Precisely.
By winning the U.S. Senior Open. So this is a classic battle, and it seems like both of them have used quite a lot of time. We're only on move 16, and we're 2.5 hours into the time control.
Exactly. Youth versus grizzled age and experience. Alexander Ivanov, grandmaster for the better part of, 35, 40 years. He's playing the birthday boy today. And I must say, I actually like Hayden's position. The computers are assessing the position as a smidgen of an advantage for black. But I tell you, in practical games, this is a very hard position for black to play.
Oh, yeah. It looks like a reverse French.
Precisely. And this knight on f4 is on the near ideal outpost. While white's bishop isn't doing that great a job, the reality is it's tying this bishop on c8 to the defense of the f5 pawn. White has basically only one problem to solve. If he could play the move bishop b4 and trade the dark square bishops, I actually think that white is doing great. Hence, that is why the computer likes this move a5 to stop this
Right,
bishop.
typical French maneuver, right? If we were on the black side of the French, it would be a bishop b5 line. And you've played lines like that before in your past, right? Queen d7, bishop a6, champion of those lines.
My whole career, in fact. And so after castles, again, the computer does like black's position, Alexander Ivanov's, only by a smidgen, but I'll take the birthday boy in this particular position. I like white's game, and Caden's doing very well.
All right, and let's switch games here. I think we've got Grandmaster Maurice Ashley with Sam Sevian's game.
Well, the G4 virus is definitely traveling around the room. You know, when you have the flu, the kids in the room all get sick. Well, apparently it's happened here because in the Sevian, Zamor Hasbun game, Sam Sevian has the black pieces, and here, of course, you could guess it, the move G4 was played. A little bit more sensible in this situation. The position is more blocked. White is securing the knight on F5. So here, not so dramatic. However, another situation brewing that we definitely want to pay attention to is a sacrifice alert in this position that looked extraordinarily calm. Black had blocked up everything that white was trying to demonstrate over on the king side and was now starting to get his own play on the other side of the board. Well, Benjamin would have none of it and decided, it's time for me to sacrifice. Bishop takes h5, and if this captures back, then here comes the queen over there looking to play g6 and maybe get an attack going. It doesn't look all that clear. Maybe bishop back, bishop to f5 is playable, knight g3, bishop back to g6, but still there might be some play if the queen hangs around with h5 coming. So in this position, after bishop takes h5, this sacrifice, the computer is saying, you can have the pawn. Let's just keep playing on the queen side. Will that happen? Pretty bizarre stuff. Wild things happening today at the championship. Jen and Yas?
Thank you, Maurice. So an exciting sacrifice in the Benjamin Varousian game. So where are we at in the position? Bishop takes h5?
Bishop takes h5 has been played, and as Maurice was saying, capturing the bishop gives white inroads on the king side and maybe opportunities for better repetition. Interestingly, the computer, which of course loves material, in this particular case says, stop, back up for a moment, let's not capture this bishop, but rather let's continue with rook c8 and try to create a weakness on the queen side. And we can see, white doesn't have a lot of pieces over here on the queen side, and if black can follow up with moves like queen b4, he's the one with the initiative, and in fact, the computer is saying this is good for black.
Well, I think Varousian is going to go for this line. He seems like the type who plays the French with the idea to get activity, not to be miserable. And yeah, I think this game is going to continue to be interesting. But I do believe that Varousian is going to reject the sacrifice.
All right. Well, yeah, it's tough when your opponent starts throwing their pieces against you. Most of the time, I like to take them, but in this particular case, it does make sense. Rook c8, and let's say the line would continue rook c3, and probably just going after this pawn on c3. Continuing.
Yes, I think so. Not maybe with the queen though, because we get all that
activity going
the
other way. Queen here.
Queen a3. Just go for it. Maybe we're getting there first. Especially since we don't mind a queen trade in any variation, so that helps our cause tremendously.
Well, in this particular line, we can see how black's queen has made tremendous inroads over here with queen c1 check. If I drop back with the queen, you will capture this pawn on c3, and you will have an advantage. No doubts about it. So, not a great game going on here between two top-class grandmasters.
And let's take another look at our dragon. We've got Irina Zenyuk and Tatev Abrahamian.
All right, let me just...
In the women's championship, we really like the position for white. We didn't think that the dragon was going to survive. And it looks like white did play one of the lines that we were discussing. Instead of the knight f4, which you guys liked even more, queen f4 with the blunt idea of queen to h4 and checkmate on h7. Hard to prevent because you've got these nice little knight e6 moves at the end, cracking open another file in black's face. So what happened? We did get all of these moves.
Right.
Now Tatev's to play, and she's trying to figure out what she wants to do here, but it looks like one of those situations where maybe everything wins.
Right.
Like, what if she just plays the more obvious looking move because knight e6 is a little fancier? Like, what if she just plays takes on queen h7 and then takes on g6? Does that also win?
That looks awesome as well. I mean, again, Jen, you're just opening up the F file, and you want to bring your rook across from the h1 square to the f1 square and just crash down over here on f7, and that also very straightforward play will do it. You don't have to be fancy.
Okay, and now let's see how this will end. If pawn takes g6,
Pawn takes g6, rook f1 check. Okay, you could probably put your knight in the way for a moment, but okay, assuming you were to play bishop f6. The line I like, actually, very straightforward, is knight check, bishop takes, pawn takes, and there's no possible defense to queen f7 check and mate.
it just looks like Tatev is crushing here. We're getting a note here from Grandmaster Maurice Ashley that there's actually a mate in 23. So, and here there's a mate in 2. I mean, well, I guess you just have knight c3 check.
Right.
Knight c3 check, and that's your desperado followed by
right.
queen f7 mate.
In the barbaric Northwest, we would call the move knight c3 a spike check.
And it's over. I mean, just a fantastic game by Tatev Abrahamian. We are talking about how Irina Krush is playing so fantastically, but you know, Tatev nipping at her heels.
Without question. And in this game, I admire them both. Irina Zenyuk came to the game, I think, very, very well prepared. She had a shot. She was in there with a puncher's chance, but I think she just misunderstood that in this position, the move rook takes d5, she couldn't afford a single misstep, and she had this opportunity of capturing on, pardon me, on f5, and that would have been much more of a challenge for white.
Or knight c4 earlier.
Or knight c4 earlier, twice. She had those opportunities, missed them both, and unfortunately, in the position that she currently has on the board, I think she simply lost.
You just can't make too many mistakes when you're training your dragon.
Very good. And shall we see what's happening on the first board in the U.S. Women's Championship? Irina Krush, as we know, perfect score. We loved her position earlier when we left. Has she improved it? This was the position we left when I was pointing out that this move bishop e4, angling to snap off this pawn on h7, was in the air. Angelina, bishop e7. She's been playing that dark square bishop around a lot. Normally you get punished when you ignore the rest of your pieces.
Well, the idea there is that it stops bishop to e4 because then rook takes g5, and unlike many of the imbalances we've seen elsewhere in this competition, the two pieces would be way more powerful than the rook. So
Clear.
That would be very bad for Irina. So instead, she's forced to just retreat her knight. So I actually think this was a good idea by Angelina because the bishop on g6, imprisoning her bishop on c8, was not leaving much of an impression.
True that. I couldn't agree with you more all across the board. You know, somehow I like that knight on g5. And I would have probably been very tempted to keep it there, at least for one extra ply with this move h4, because I like this bishop e4 threat. If you play h6, what do you think about that? Reasonable move. How about, pardon me, how about first of all tossing out this bishop check, probably provoking you into the corner, correct? Mm-hmm. And then how about bishop back to e4, attacking this rook?
And then we're forced to backtrack.
Right, rook at...
Probably f8.
Rook to f8. Now, is there anything I can... this is what I was angling for. Let me just put it on the board so folks can see how I fantasize. I mean, it's not the greatest square, of course, for the knight, but I'm trying to go after
You were
this
hoping
rook.
f7, bishop g6 or something?
Well,
Yeah.
precisely. Rook f7, I was actually angling for queen h5, maybe threatening ideas, what you mentioned,
Oh, this
bishop
looks very
g6.
powerful. Bishop g6, bishop h6. But it looks like black can just play the weird-looking rook g8 because your pieces are so miscoordinated now. I think I'm threatening now. I think I'm just threatening g6.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, your knights. You basically trapped your own knight,
well, without question.
and you don't have time to play. I mean, I guess you could. Well, maybe you could play h5 here.
Right, locking down, as you say, to prevent your g6 idea.
And to play bishop g6 yourself, perhaps.
Right. That would be a nice anchor square for my bishop.
So an interesting possibility.
Fantasies sometimes lead you somewhere. I'm not sure that I'm happy with the knight on h7. Then again, it may end up being a brilliant square. But that did not happen. So let's go to and see how the game has unfolded since. Knight e4, bishop a6. Angelina is playing uncompromising chess. She's not trying to clarify the position at all. Knight c3. Going after this square, d5 outpost.
Wisely getting her king out of dodge.
King h8. And now Irina is playing classically. She took the two bishops, but then immediately gave up the bishop on g2.
So trading one kind of advantage for another kind. So she trades the kind of dynamic advantage of the two bishops for the more static, permanent advantage of playing against black's weak pawns. So this is going to be an interesting strategic battle here. Is Irina Krush going to squeeze Angelina to death? We will find out. But first we have an instructive moment from Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Well, Jen, there are situations in chess where the natural move isn't the right move. It happens quite often. And one of the things I remember, a quote from Viktor Korchnoi, that you know you're becoming a strong player when you start playing the exceptions to the rule, as opposed to playing the natural moves that seem like those are the ones that would work. And in this situation, Onischuk had a fantastic position. It looks, to all the world like he has all the compensation. He's got all these pawns. And what's the missing element for him? The one thing he wants to do is take this pawn on c7 and ram it down white's throat. Just go down the board as fast as possible. So he needs to move this knight away from c6. In the game, he chose to move knight to e5. And the computer frowns on this move because it relieves white a little bit by allowing him to trade here. It's still a little better for black, and maybe enough to win the game. But Onischuk had a much better move, a paradoxical one, knight to a5, guarding this pawn on b3 and leaving this pawn undefended for the moment. His intention is still to play the move c5, and in fact, you cannot capture this pawn with your knight because of the move c5, and the knight has no safe place to go. Anywhere it goes, it requires the defense of the queen. So, for example, the move knight to f5 would run into queen takes queen, rook takes, and even this bishop is hanging also. This knight is hanging on f5, so it couldn't play there. Actually, there's no good place for it to go. The pin is on this long diagonal as well. So too much happening. So the pawn is untouchable. And so after knight a5, c5 will happen. So will c4. And those pawns are just going to reign. And so a missed move, a missed opportunity here for Onischuk. He instead played the move knight to e5. And this is where the position sits. The computer is saying now only a 0.98 advantage as opposed to 2.5, I believe. Well, over 2, which would have been much more in his favor. So those paradoxical moves, you got to look for them instead of just playing the natural ones. Jen?
Thank you, Maurice.
I got to share a story about Viktor Korchnoi because Maurice made a quote from Viktor. So many stories, great stories about Viktor. One of the wonderful things about this octogenarian Viktor Korchnoi, who still is with us blessedly, Viktor took a lot of junior players as his coach, junior players. And I asked him about it, and he said, well, the junior players bring passion to chess and make him feel youthful. So he liked their passion and took a large number of juniors under his wing, including yours truly. But one story comes from John Vanderveel. John Vanderveel and Victor were studying, preparing for one of Victor's big matches. And John Vanderveel from Holland had offered a suggestion in a very strategic game with an anti-positional move. And Victor looked at John and said, "John, before you violate the rules of strategy, you should first know them." One of the great put downs of all time. And John just loved it. I mean, he tells the story with great joy today. And it's true. You should know the rules, and then you know how to violate the rules and why you're violating the rules. But this was a very good explanation there by Maurice. When the move knight c6 to a5, moving the knight out of the center, usually that's frowned upon, but in this case, the exception would have given, it looks like, Onishuk a massive advantage.
Indeed, and it's also a badge of honor to be insulted by a legend.
Absolutely.
So it goes both ways.
Right on.
And I did want to remind everyone, hashtag US Chess Champs for questions and comments on the broadcast, and also award Jay Carr, who had a question for Yasser earlier, a 1-year membership to chess.com. We're also giving out ICC memberships, so
Very nice.
keep those questions and comments coming.
And
let's go to our board one in the U.S. Championship, Conrad Halt and Gata Kamsky.
Absolutely.
And here we've got them on the webcam. Looks like Conrad's doing some yoga and stretching. There was a good article on the USCF website about chess and yoga, so
Yeah.
maybe Conrad read up on that and is kind of stretching himself out.
And what was the conclusion? Yoga's good for your chess?
Well, the idea is that chess can be bad for your posture, so yoga is a good, kind of complement to that.
Absolutely.
To try to keep you balanced in that way.
Very cool. Well, when we left it, remember we saw this move c5 with the ideas of rook to d6 as well as bishop to c4. I predicted Gata would play e3, which is going after white's king. This bishop opens up magnificently on this long diagonal.
Knight coming to f4, queen coming to the party. You got to invite the queen to the party.
Oh, you bet. So after the move e3, Conrad felt obliged to capture it. Can't blame him for that one. Queen.
Gold embossed invitation here for the queen.
Yes, Your Majesty, please enter. Threat alert, queen g3, going after a checkmate as well as the obvious queen captures e3 check. That would
Threaten
be
to threaten.
Threaten to threaten.
Threaten to threaten is big, though. I think that sometimes people don't see the checkmate threats. So you're playing a move that threatens to mate.
Uh-huh.
And that's something that sometimes people miss.
Well, in this case, it's really, like flashing red.
Yes, especially with your arrows.
Okay, queen d2 looks like a box move, what we would say is a force move, as white feels compelled to now go on the defensive.
And luckily also getting the queen back to the defensive g2. So now after queen g3, we can move our bishop on e2, and the mate would be defended.
Right.
So we should point out that at least Conrad Halt is getting Gata thinking, because before Gata was up a whole half hour, and now they've pretty much evened out on the clocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having said all that, and the computer, I can tell you, the computer sits there and says, hey, this position's quite defensible, only a smidgen of an advantage for Gata. I mean, as a human player, I would see moves like queen g3 threaten directly checkmate, and if we drop the bishop back, probably a bad move, by the way,
Knight
I would see
g5.
knight g5.
That's fun.
With ideas of knight f3 check and knight h3.
I
would
can
like
just get out of it
panic.
with I can just get out of it with king h1, right?
Are you
Nope, there's another
sure?
pin. That's the problem when you play king to h. You're in a pin now with the knight takes h3 threat. And if
Right.
you play king h1, you're still in a pin because of that beautiful bishop on b7, which we've seen in so many other games.
Exactly.
And while it's not quite checkmating, it looks pretty bad.
It does, and again, the
Although
computer,
not as bad as knight f3 mate, knight f3 winning the queen.
the computer doesn't seem to be impressed by all of these threats, but as a human player, I really would favor Gata's position, and if he does win this game, guess what? He's at 4-0.
Yes.
Whoa, and running away from the field and arguably running away with the Bobby Fischer prize?
He's got an eye on the prize, that's sure. I feel like once he gets to 5-0, it's definitely, in his mind. Up to this point, I think most of the players just think like, oh, it's impossible to get that. But if he gets to 5-0, it's going to be serious business. Now, let's point out he hasn't played a lot of the most solid and strong players in the tournament. He hasn't played his Olympic teammates, Alexander Onishuk, who especially with the white pieces will be a very hard nut to crack.
Right.
And then Varuzhin Akobian, neither.
Also.
So those are some, and that's not to mention some other very strong players in the
Gariev.
field. Grayev, Benjamin.
Yes.
So there's Schulman. I mean, there's a lot of good players he hasn't played yet. And in fact, you could argue that he's playing against one of the less experienced players this round.
Which is true, but okay, Conrad, to his credit, is playing well.
Yeah.
If the guy goes
He
on
earned
a
it.
rampage, he earned it. He's playing on board well with good reason.
And something has been captured. So
Well-
let's see what happened.
Well, instead of going for the Queen G3 approach, Gata played Rook C8 to D8, which, okay, makes perfect sense, going after the Queen. Queen dropped back. Gata, if he wanted at this moment, could have won his pawn with check. That would have precipitated Queen F2. Bishop D5. Gata's keeping all of his... Notice the harmony, by the way, of Gata's attacking forces, right? All the places are very well placed.
And everything protects each other, so you don't have to worry about those pesky loose pieces.
The sign of the master hand, let's put it that way. And I think we were up to date, probably not.
I actually think that Conrad grabbed something. I believe he actually played bishop takes a6. So
Really?
he grabbed another pawn, and now Gatakamsky is at a 2-pawn deficit, but lots of threats in the position. What about some checkmate threats here? Let's take a look.
Well, let's see. What do you like? You like lining up the
Let's
queen?
look at queen e4.
Okay. Oops. I do believe I have a little hiccup at the moment. Just a second.
Oh, but
Pardon me.
Oh, you got a hiccup. Yeah, but I mean, I did hear that we have a move actually that he didn't play queen e4. I guess on queen e4,
Threatening the checkmate down on.
he just figured perhaps that white could just defend it with queen to f2.
Reasonable.
But
move.
then I was thinking maybe something like knight g5, threatening knight takes h3.
Right.
That's what I was hoping for.
Right.
But I'm sure there were a number of other defenses after queen e4, and so instead, Gata apparently has played rook to a8.
All right. Just a second. Let me just do something.
Flummoxed here by this position?
Yes, indeed. Where's
Yes,
my delete key?
Yes, we do have a tweet here from Philip Go, who goes by Math Casualty on Twitter. All right, that's a fun name. And he mentioned that the structure in Feingold Norwitz, a game that we haven't looked at yet, between a newcomer to the championship, Jakub Norwitz, and St. Louis local Ben Feingold, he said that game is reminiscent of Nakamura Lenderman 2012, that epic game, which was a 121 move draw. And
Wow.
he asks, why do they play almost 100 moves less? Well, we'll have to pull up that game later, but yeah, that was a pretty incredible performance by Lenderman, who is not playing this year, but I think he's trying to qualify for the World Cup instead.
Absolutely, with good reason. I mean, Alex Lenderman was he played excellently last year in the U.S. Championship. Didn't make this year's U.S. Championship, but as you point out correctly, is going to be playing in the World Cup knockout championships, the FIDE World Championship cycle, and so we wish him a great deal of good luck. On the webcam, I see we've got Ben Feingold's position. I'm not sure.
It looks like it's still underway, so I don't know.
Yeah.
He says, why did it finish? But yeah, it's still going strong, and looks like it'll be an interesting game. And we also have Grandmaster Maurice Ashley for more on our top board struggle.
Well, I'm paying attention to this game as much as you guys, obviously, and I've been looking at some of these finer points here with the computer to understand it, and it looks as though Conrad is playing brilliantly in defense. It's really amazing how he's holding off this world-class grandmaster, one of the top players in the world. First of all, this move, queen g3, which looks really attractive, white can actually just defend with bishop to c4, keeping that knight out of the game, and the queen defends laterally on g2 and is ready to help out that king. That pin just too annoying, it turns out. Now after rook c d8, queen to e1, computer doesn't think this move is that special, bishop to d5, but materialistic indeed. Bishop takes on a6. And if you look at this, although black's pieces are well harmonized, you can look and everything about it is gorgeous, he is down 2 pawns. It's a lot of pawns. And in fact, after his move, which is the move given by the computer as best, rook a8, bishop to f1 guards everything. There's no checkmate happening anytime soon. And after this capture, black really doesn't have anything super concrete. And it looks as though white might be able to get back pretty rapidly with a maneuver like this one, knight back, and then improve this knight, chasing the queen away. And now it's not so easy. It's just not. And black is still down a pawn with a lot to prove. So just a few moves away from totally consolidating is young Conrad Holt and putting his more experienced grandmaster, his feet to the fire. Pretty good position. Jen and Yaz?
Impressive defense by Conrad, because truth be told, a lot of grandmasters would just simply collapse under what seems like fantastic attacking play by Gadakamsky. And as Maurice has been pointing out, white is material ahead. Gada has recaptured the pawn. He didn't play Maurice's bishop f1, which, well, instead he played the move bishop b5. Very intriguing move.
Bishop b5, interesting. And
yeah,
then,
just going after.
and then black just took the pawn on a2 anyway,
Right.
allowing bishop takes a8, which I guess was assessed to be quite poor after.
Well, rook
let's
takes
play it out.
g2.
Rook takes g2 and queen h2.
Exactly.
That looks like the
checkmating attack just plays itself, right?
more checkmates on the board.
Instantly.
rook takes bishop, and queen h1 would just be checkmate.
Exactly. We'll put that on just for our audience. We've actually got a choice of 3 mates in one.
Yeah, what does it say about me? Where queen h1 was my first instinct. I don't want to get too close to you. I just I want to crush you from afar.
I'm not that bad. I'm a nice guy.
Well, Anna Sherovich yesterday from Lindenwood said that she was extremely jealous of me sitting next to your silver tongue all week.
There you go. Well, the computer did not like Conrad. It loved what Conrad had been doing up to this precise moment, and it didn't like this move bishop b5, preferring Maurice's defensive retreat, bishop f1, just keeping this pawn under.
Right, holding on to that pawn.
So that after rook takes a2, knight c1, since g2 is protected, it gives white the time he needs to bring his knight back into play.
I don't know. That looks like a starting position from Fisher Random. Put that back on the board, doesn't it? Bishop f1 and then knight c1.
Just a second.
Because we commented together on a Fisher Random competition. That's something that you love.
Kings and queens.
KVQ here at the St. Louis Chess Club.
Absolutely.
So after rook a2, knight c1, this looks exactly like a starting position for Fisher Random. And yet, not too bad for white. Sometimes retreats are not awful, right? Again, that whole like when to break the rules idea.
There you go.
But instead, bishop b5. And again, we talked earlier about how loose pieces often are kind of an alarm signal. So you want to be extra sure when you put a square on a square that's not defended that you've got all your tactics covered.
Exactly. Well, this is not covering up, let's put it that way. And the computer already thinks that despite the fact that white is ahead in material, the computer says black's attack is now taking on alarming proportions and Gada has an advantage. And I tell you, when you're under pressure and you're facing, the highest seed in the tournament, and this is your rookie year, we hope that Conrad can find the moves to stave off defeat, but it's going to be hard.
Well, I'm also excited because that means that Gada's going to be able to have some fun and we're going to be able to see some more cool checkmating variations. Even if they don't happen, we'll be able to enjoy them. And we've got Maurice Ashley with an update on the Goreyev game.
Well, more than an update, this is an astonishing move as you'll ever see in a chess game. Take a look at this. The last move played was rook to d4. The rook is obviously attacking white's queen. White has a very simple move here. Rook takes on d4. And after pawn takes, then just play knight to e4, threatening to put the knight in to the d6 square, forking the queen and the rook. Real simple. No big deal. Okay, you did straighten out black's pawns, but your pieces are still good. And computer says white has a decent advantage at 0.78. But Schulman panicked here and thought that move was terrible, and he evaluated it as just a poor position for him. And instead he replied with just a move that makes you fall off your chair. He played the move knight to g6. With his queen still under attack, he drops his knight in on the g6 square. Obviously, it cannot be captured because of this pin on this diagonal, but what about taking the queen? Well, it turns out rook to e8 check, king up, and now knight f7 check, and after king back, he just plans to draw by playing perpetual check. An astonishing way to draw the game, especially considering that white was actually better. I mean, he went crazy. Jen and Yas?
Sometimes you just make a misjudgment on the position. I think Yuri just had a momentary misjudgment there. He didn't realize that his position was actually just fine, as Maurice pointed out. He saw this repetition with knight g6 and said, okay, I'll make a draw because I'm worse, when he wasn't. So that's just a big misjudgment, miscall.
Well, as we get up from our chairs, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more chess and action from the U.S. Chess Championships and U.S. Women's here in St. Louis. Hello, here at the U.S. Chess Championships, we have some results going into the third hour of play, and we have Grandmaster Sam Shanklin, who's going to be talking with Maurice in just a minute, but we also have Holt Kamsky, and the situation here is starting to clarify. It looks like Holt screwed up, huh?
Yes, he did. Well, a popular question from reporters to me is, what separates grandmasters from another? Why is one grandmaster better than another? There are 1,000 good answers. One I like to say is that some grandmasters know a lot of positions better than other grandmasters. Another one is simply that some grandmasters calculate better than others. In this position that we see in front of our screens, Bishop b5 was played by Conrad, and he had calculated what he thought was a winning variation for him. He saw this move e4, expected that he would be able to capture this rook, and felt that the position was winning. Unfortunately for him, in the words of Bobby Fischer, he missed the scorpion sting at the end of the tail.
That checkmate threat I was saying, yeah.
Queen g2 and knight f4 are devastating checkmating ideas. Conrad was forced to give back the bishop, and in this position, the computer assesses the position as completely won, completely winning for Gada Kamsky.
Well, yeah, that e2 pawn is just too powerful. I mean, sorry, e3, Freudian slip there. Coming to e2 shortly, though. Wow, so it looks like Gada Kamsky is going to start this tournament with 4 wins. Fantastic. And we have another winner today with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley, and that's Grandmaster Sam Shanklin, who joins us for the first time on this broadcast.
Thanks, Jen. With Grandmaster Sam Shanklin, congratulations on your win today.
Thank you.
How's it been so far in the tournament for you? How would you assess how you've been playing?
Well, I think I've played quite well, actually. I mean, I know I lost to Conrad in round 1, which was an upset, but I was kind of beating myself up that night for losing that game, but I just looked at it later. Conrad just played like a genius. He deserved to win. And I think I've been playing decently, and after a relatively slow start, things are moving in the right direction.
How has it been? We noted that there are at least 5 collegians in the men's section, in the championship section. How's it been trying to deal with the fact that you just had a few papers to write, finals to take, and then come to play chess with the Sharks?
It's been very difficult. I took 3 exams in the 2 days before the U.S. Championship, which is really tough. Normally I'd want to be resting more, but you have to make some sacrifices on both ends if you want to be a semi-professional, professional chess player, as well as a college student. And probably I could have spent more time studying for my exams, and I also could have spent more time preparing for this tournament, but you have to make your choices, and I'm pretty happy the way things have turned out.
Now, you've just won the Sanford Fellowship, which is a scholarship, a fellowship money, so you'll be able to study chess full-time and really pursue the career. Are you going to be able to study chess full-time, still with being a student at Brandeis?
Well, while I'm at Brandeis, it'll be a little bit tougher, but I think that I've managed to study a fair amount while I'm in school, and I've improved a lot while I've been in school. When I came to school, I was rated 2498 FIDE. I'm now 2612, so clearly I was able to improve. And also keep in mind that the Sanford is 2 years, it's 24 months, and only 7 of those 24 months will be shared with school. So I don't think it will present a problem.
Cool. So what are your thoughts about the tournament going forward? After 4 rounds, you now have...
I'm a +1, 2.5 out of 4.
2.5. What are you thinking about your chances moving forward?
I mean, Kamsky seems like a complete juggernaut right now, but you know, I don't really like to think about chances to win the tournament or anything like that. I just like to take it one game at a time, and you know, that's been working for me so far. But I'm reasonably satisfied with my play, and I think if I keep things up, keep on playing the way I've been playing the last 2 games, and catch some good breaks, you know, stranger things have happened.
Professional attitude. Well, congratulations on your victory
Thank you.
today. Good luck in the rest of the tournament.
Thanks much.
Back to you, Jen and Yas.
Thank you. And we do have some more results coming in today. Sabina Foiger has defeated Chang. Kaidanov and Kachian made a draw. And Abrahamian in that exciting dragon also defeated Zenyuk. And we saw that coming for quite a few moves. That was a real slaughter. And I can't wait to hear what Tatev has to say about that with Maurice. And we also have an official result in the Kamsky game. Kamsky has defeated Holt and moves to 4-0. What a fantastic start by a #1 seed here, Gada Kamsky.
Absolutely. I think Gada will count his lucky stars today, as his opponent made a terrible miscalculation, as it turns out, in what had been a pretty well-played game by Conrad. Had he played that defensive retreat bishop f1, I'm sure he would have held the game. Instead, he went for more, and he came out empty-handed. By the way, Sam Shanklin, I really think of is one of the great American talents. Really, he played fantastically well in Brazil for the U.S. team as it qualified in the Pan Ams for the World Team Championship, thanks to Sam's excellent performance there. So it's great that he won the Sanford Fellowship Program. It's a 2-year grant, as Sam mentioned, awarded to the most talented person in American chess. So it's great to have Sam playing in the tournament, and being a full-time college student makes it that much harder. But you're right, bravo Gada, as he is the juggernaut of the moment at 4-0.
Yes, fantastic. And I agree with you about Sam. You know, I've avoided until now about making a cheesy pun with Sam Ford.
Ooh,
Sorry,
bad.
guys. But
Bad girl.
also, you know, we've got another interesting game that people have been requesting as we set up
Yes.
some of our star interviews here. I've been getting some requests for Ramirez and Hess. So another two of our young stars, but not quite as young as some of the participants in this event. But
Alright.
it does look pretty interesting. Both very popular players, and a number of players have been asking us to look at this game. You might
Sure.
want to skip closer to the end because I don't think we're going to have time to look through it all.
Okay, it had a lot of themes that were familiar to the first board, Gada Kamsky and Conrad Holgame. I love these knights on e5, by the way. Great outpost with the move f5. Robert Hess, I think, is under a lot of pressure here as he's facing a devastating kingside attack. Please note, especially for these our amateurs in our audience, how those bishops are aimed at Robert Hess's king.
Yes, and it's true that the knight on f8 defends, but f takes e6 took care of that momentarily.
That was quite a leap of faith there with that move knight d5, pardon me, by Alejandro. He must have felt that he had some depth. Oh, he just wanted to win a pawn over here on the queen side. Okay. Very strange things are happening.
Whoa, okay. So this is a real tactical battlefield here.
Right.
And f7 hanging? Ooh, that doesn't look good.
Another Donnybrook. Look at this.
And
with a
and
discovered check.
c4 is adequately protected. Although, I guess, so what happens on rook takes c4? What kind of, oh, you just recapture with the rook.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Rook takes c4. I attack the queen, and this rook is hanging.
Yes, I was trying to take on c4 and then take on f7, but after rook takes c4.
It's a tempo.
Exactly.
But check this out. Bishop c5, cutting the protection of the
Wow,
bishop.
crazy position.
Inviting a discover check, and Black has his own discover checks in mind.
So we could get like a check-check type situation.
Right.
I like that. Like, for instance, not that we would do it anyway, but it's so rare that we should put it on the board. If knight takes d8, surely check. Black would surely take on c4, but it's kind of cool. Yeah, we can take with another check.
Check, check.
So
Not an everyday occurrence,
exactly.
that's for sure.
And I don't know if that's the best continuation, but it sure is fun. So what we actually do have on the board so far is just bishop to c5.
Right.
And now it's Ramirez to move.
Well, the computer does like capturing the rook, but it prefers, interestingly enough, not to make the discover check at once, but rather to first play queen takes c4. Not quite sure why.
Yeah, I wonder why. So let's try to figure out why rook takes c4 is so terrible. Maybe there's
Simply
just
king
play
h1.
king h1, and now we've got some threats of our own here. Undoubtedly, queen e6 check is a strong threat. And, oops, that smothered mate might come up again.
Exactly. And after rook e4, queen f3, the computer just reckons that with the extra exchange, White is doing exceedingly well. That's all it is.
It's always important to keep track of the material. Sometimes when positions are so wild, you just kind of forget, like,
The material is important.
White's up an exchange, so when the dust clears, that's going to be good. All right, so why can't we just simply consolidate here, too? What's the difference?
Let's take a look. Queen takes,
So the
rook
difference
takes.
here, we still are up an exchange, but is...
But here, maybe
Okay,
there's
so there's a knight
ideas.
e4, and
knight f2 check kind of ideas and maybe a repetition or something of that nature, because keep in mind, rook takes f2 won't be permitted. There'll be a back rank checkmate.
True, and it's not easy for you to make Luft. H3 falls to knight G3,
That's
and
right.
G3.
And excuse me, pardon me, knight e4, G3 in this moment, Jennifer.
Yes.
Maybe I can just simply slide down with
Right.
rook c2, and again supporting perpetual check ideas.
So with plenty of counterplay here and some very poorly coordinated pieces by white, black seems to be somehow holding on. So
it out.
fascinating tactical battle, and thanks to those of you online who are fans of these two players and pointed us to the slugfest. There's been so many exciting games. We've been missing some of them, and that's a good sign about how great this tournament is. And now we have the big star here so far at the championship. We've got Gata Kamsky, who now has a 4-0 score, and he is with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Thanks, Jen. Well, congratulations on your victory today, Gata. It seemed like a terrific struggle, stuff happening all over the place, but in the end, you got the victory. How do you feel about the game?
Well, I felt it was, actually I was trying to play some solo chess today. So I came to the game, I just trying to develop my pieces the way I usually play. And then when he played e4 and I saw that I could open both of my bishops and then we're going to have an open position, it was fun, so I decided to play like that.
So sometimes the plan has to go out the window because of the way you feel at the board.
Exactly, right. But then my opponent played really well. He opened the position and he got counterplay. And I thought that for a long time that I was better, but I couldn't find the exact way. And then I started thinking, and usually what happens when you think for a long time, then you find a really bad move, which happened in my case. So after e3, I thought that was already worse, and it was the matter of whether I should go for minor inferior endgame after queen takes e3, or just...
So let's just get to that move here. You played e3 here?
Right, no, but instead of bishop d5, so in this position, yeah, instead of bishop d5 could take on e3, and then white is just better because his endgame is superior. Or mix it up and try to sacrifice second pawn for counterplay. And I decided to go for counterplay because
He did take the pawn, in fact. He took and he played rook here. And this was the critical moment, a very big moment in the game.
Right. And then I thought that he had to play queen e2 here because the idea is that if I take on e6, he takes on d5.
Oh, yes.
Which is nice intermezzo. So I have to take on g2 here.
So if takes here.
And he's just better.
And kills
yeah.
him. Okay.
Right. So instead I have to take on g2 and force a draw.
Queen e2 there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So bishop takes g2. And if king takes g2, then I take on a6. Queen a6. And I'm sorry. And I force the draw with the knight f4 check.
Wow. Because, we'll just point this out too.
Right. Because the king has nowhere to go from checks.
And the queen just harasses the king completely.
Right. And that was the draw I thought would happen on the board.
Now, there was another variation after rook a8 that he could have tried to consolidate with bishop f1. You definitely have compensation with rook takes.
Yeah, but he is very passive, and I was comfortable with this position because my pieces are centralized, and they have more space. So I felt I could make a draw here easily.
Mm-hmm.
So, but after the blunder on e8, of course, white has just lost.
Right. Beautiful finish. He just missed the tactic of e3. Did he say what he missed after the game? Did you get a chance?
I haven't spoken to him.
You didn't get a chance to speak to him. Well, now you've started brilliantly. 4-0, best start you could possibly have. Are you already thinking about the $64,000 Fisher Prize?
No, not really. It's not possible. So.
It's not even possible. It's out of your head. I think you're being modest there.
No.
But 4-0 start, indeed, great start to the tournament. Congratulations on your win, and best of luck in the rest of the games.
Thank you.
Back to you, Jen and Yas.
Well, thank you to Gata and Maurice. And although Gata says it's impossible, it's certainly more possible than it was at the start of the tournament, right?
Well, I love the way Maurice starts his interviews with Gata. Gata, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on your victory today. It just seems like Groundhog Day,
right.
4 days in a row. I mean, Gata obviously is feeling wonderful, and as the number one seed, when everything goes in your favor, sometimes it just continually rains and falls.
Well, speaking of number one seeds, let's take a quick look at our game here on the webcam between perfect score Irina Krush versus Angelina Belikovskaya, and boy, is she fighting. And we'll take a quick look at this while we get Tatev Abrahamian, the Dragon Slayer, set up for her interview with Maurice.
When we had left the game, we had saw that Irina crippled Black's pawn structure. Angelina Belikovskaya was under technical problems. Bishop d2, queen d7, bishop c3, aiming at this weak pawn on e5. We really liked Irina's game at this point. f3, okay, just preparing to play maybe king g2 and keeping...
Right, she didn't want maybe rook f3 and a rook f8 coming in at some point, although I guess e5 would have hung. But
yeah.
maybe there was some way in which Black could have done that after protecting the e-pawn, so...
Okay, bishop d6, king g2 was played. King came out from the corner, king h8 to g8. And this just looks terrific for Irina. Black's pawns are really weak. h5, wow, okay. h4, queen takes, oh, big decision there. Okay, d takes e4, recapturing, taking this isolated pawn from backward pawn on d3 and transforming it into a powerhouse here on e4. Irina is just simply playing very, very good technical chess here.
Very big positional advantage here for white.
Exactly. I like what she's doing. And now it seems that she's just preparing to retreat her bishop, something like bishop to d2 and going after this pawn on c4. She has other ways of increasing her advantage, in my view, perhaps even just grabbing the open file with a move like rook d1. I like everything about white's position here, I must say.
Indeed, but there's still some work to be done. But Irina Krush definitely sitting pretty, and perhaps she'll join Gada Kamsky in the 4-0 club.
Wow, I guess the seeding really does show. It goes to show that the correct seeding order has been made thus far in the tournament, as Angelina, and we see in the webcam, Irina always has that kind of ethereal at the board, except when she's in time trouble. Then she really drills down.
But focused at the same time, but not so focused that she gets burnt out. So a really good attitude, and looks like she's going to really put the pressure on Angelina in this game. And nipping at her heels, we've got
bishop takes e5.
All right. Wow.
Angelina seems to have just simply blundered her e-pawn at this moment. Let me just double check.
Show me.
And this position which we had, rook c2,
well, there's
rook b8, rook f2 here.
Well, she's attacking the rook on f2, right?
Ah, thank you. Oh, that was that previous move. So yes, after bishop takes e5, Black can return the favor with rook attacking the bishop. Sorry, I was thinking, oh my gosh, she just blundered her e-pawn with a game of tempo.
There is some time pressure, so things could happen. But now let's go to our player in the women's championship, who is, really giving Irina a run for her money so far in the beginning of the tournament. She has 3.5 out of 4 points. Tatev Abrahamian is with Grandmaster Ashley to talk about her thrilling game.
Thanks, Jen. Tatev, congratulations, first of all, on your win. We were following this game. We were even making movie references. How to Train a Dragon? Was it How to Tame a Dragon? Did you suspect that a dragon was going to happen in your game today?
Yeah, I mean, she plays the accelerated dragon, but I mean, there's always a chance that she can play the main line. So, of course, I had to review everything, and it was a good thing that I did.
Now, were you surprised by any of her moves? Who was the one to deviate first from known theory?
Well, Bishop G7 is a move I haven't seen before. I mean, at the board when she played it, I started doubting, like, did I forget my preparation? But then she said that it was a move that she came up with at home, I guess. And so I guess she's the one who deviated. But, I mean, the position is still really complicated. But I think I came up with something good.
Well, yeah, indeed. I mean, you went caveman, or as Jen likes to say, cave woman on her. This game was extremely exciting. It does look like you had just a dominating position at some point, though. She just came up with some moves that didn't make any sense. maybe knight takes g5
Yeah,
potentially?
I mean, I checked g5 basically because I can just play queen h2 whenever I want with a tempo, getting my queen on the rook on the h file with the queen h threat. So I thought after f4, b4 was the move, so knight c2, so at least I can get to the h file so fast. But yeah, I think knight g5 just kind of goes against the bishop g7 move.
How do you feel about a game like this? I mean, it's extremely sharp, extremely intense, a lot of variations to calculate, but in many ways it's a short game and follows the theme of the dragon that Fischer laid down a long time ago, just
Right.
open up the H file and mate. Do you feel like you had to expend a lot of energy to play this game, or it just seemed like, it's just natural?
I think I did because, I mean, it's still complicated. It's so easy to overcalculate something and just hallucinate something and make a really easy mistake. Even at the end, I was planning on playing g6 instead of queen h5, and then I said queen h5 just mates in few moves. Like even towards the end, it's so easy to just sleep and not just miss something easy or overcomplicate things. So I think it does take a lot of energy.
You seem to save your best chess for the U.S. Women's Championship. You're half a point ahead now in the tournament. You're the temporary leader in this event. How are you feeling about your chances moving forward?
I mean, I don't want to think about it. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. So it's just one game at a time.
Well, the last 7 championships have been won by either Irina or Anna. I mean, we need a new name, a new face.
That'd be nice.
Okay, well, we wish you the best of luck in the rest of
Thank
your games. Congratulations on
Thank you.
today. Back to you, Jen and Yas.
All right, and let's take a look at Irina Krush and Angelina Belikovskaya's game.
All right, but before we do that, and I'll definitely come back to it. And congratulations on taming the dragon. Look at this crazy game between Shabalov and Alexander Onishuk. This was a game where Black had this massive number of pawns on the queen side in the center, which Maurice was pointing out, are just begging to come down the board. And it looked like Shabalov was basically lost. The computer assessed his position as being down 2 pawns, and we're seeing a dramatic turnaround because the world's the event's number 3 player, number 3 seed, Alex Onishuk at this point, 3.42 to the good. Check this one out. We get here, and the computer program just went 0, 0, 0 thanks to this amazing move. Rook a6, attacking
Wow.
Black's queen, going after this pawn on g6. And you know Shabalov's going to see this because this sets up for queen h4 check, attacking the king as well as the rook. And the computer just says, draw. Forget about your 4
Right, and we can show why that is if Black tries to to escape with something like King F7.
Well, your favorite kind
Exactly,
of a checkmating.
it's much better to draw
than to
no,
lose.
Don't take it, Queen D7, exactly.
Much better to draw than to lose. And after queen takes, probably bishop f8 is required. Oops, pardon me, look at that. 24 to white. So king h7 is
Just go back,
forced.
just back and forth.
And then you've got the back and forth routine, the repetition that we're so often seeing, this perpetual check.
And it looks like bishop f8 would have failed the bishop d5 check as well, probably. Let's see, why was that move just so terrible?
Oops, excuse me, bishop here, check. Looks like it just
Because you're coming into f7 again.
right. So for example, say king here. Maybe.
All right. Yeah, and then okay, go ahead. And then after
King
now
here
queen f7 with the double threat of queen g8 and queen takes f8.
is
So
winning.
too much power on that diagonal. So let's take a quick look at the Krush game because it looks like
Yes.
Angelina Belikovskaya is getting into some deep time pressure here.
Uh-oh.
Although the position's pretty simplified, so I think her position will be more of a problem than her clock.
When we left it, it was rook ff2. Here I made the, whoops, jerk. Why not capture the pawn on e5? That did in fact happen. Bishop f4, closing off the connection between the 2 rooks and preparing to capture this pawn on c4. Irina looks like she's in the driver's seat and cruising. One pawn up, big advantage to Arena. Computer agrees.
And a big pawn at that. That kind of reminds me of the pawn that Larry Christensen jammed down O'Brien's throat. And
Yes,
I think something similar is going to happen in this game. Now, we have a grandmaster, another grandmaster, who's with Maurice Ashley now, getting ready to talk to us, I think, for the first time in the tournament as well.
Yeah.
So one of our most popular grandmasters, also a coach and kind of a St. Louis local, right? Chicago.
Chicago's close
Like,
enough. We accept Yuri.
right next door.
Yuri's very good people.
So Yuri Shulman with Maurice Ashley.
Thanks, Jen. With Grandmaster Yuri Shulman, a former champion at this event. Yuri, you've started off kind of tepid, maybe the best way to say it, with 4 draws. What's going on?
I mean, I think I played interesting games, but somehow, like, maybe didn't catch my wind yet. So in round 1, I blundered an exchange, and the position was good enough to survive in 130 moves, so it was okay. And in this round, it was an interesting fight, and it looks like, I had an advantage in the end, but I just didn't see the move King G2. But it's yesterday, was exchange French. What could I do? I mean, we even tried to play. Both of us tried to win. But
What goes on in a player's mind when you feel like you're just stuck in the mud a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to spice up your play without, of course, going overboard and end up blowing up?
Right. I mean, yeah, you still should find your own motivation, and play chess the way you usually do, I think. And I mean, of course, you can start playing some gambits, but I don't know if it's time yet.
Now, today's game, this moment we really highlighted when I spotted this situation happening. The computer says that all you have to do now is trade on d4 and then play knight e4 and you have a slight advantage. Instead, you came up with this amazing idea, sacrificing your queen, which should have led to a perpetual check, as it turns out. Did you feel really uncomfortable at this moment to force this draw?
I mean, I didn't see that I would have enough compensation after rook d4, c4, knight e4. I just didn't feel that I have more than enough. I mean, there is some risk, but maybe maybe position might be even, but I didn't see. But so I felt that I didn't have enough in this game. So
well, at this moment, he could have taken a draw, but instead he went for more with this move, and it turns out that now suddenly you were winning even. And you pointed this out.
I missed King G2 move.
That this variation,
knight e7, rook f3, and I only was thinking about Queen e2, maybe, which is good enough, maybe as well. But after Queen e2, there is some rook f2 move.
Queen e2 or King e2?
Queen e2. That's what I was calculating, and I thought rook f2 is playable, but I don't know.
Oh, that's some crazy stuff.
But
obviously,
I miss King G2.
Obviously, King takes,
D3,
runs into D3, and this bishop is also giving check along the long diagonal.
Right.
So, backing up just a moment, rook D4, CD4, knight E7, and rook F2, and you're saying the move King to G2.
I didn't even look at this move, and it looks very strong. Yeah, it's
attacking the rook, and the rook seems like it has pretty much nowhere to go.
Yeah, I was only thinking to attack with the queen, but because it looks like c5 might be a move, but you always can block with the knight. Yeah.
I see. So that's very paradoxical. Putting your king on this long diagonal and your knight's under attack. I can see why you would miss something like this.
Right. And I mean, he should have taken a draw, and maybe I should have tried my chance, but if I had seen King G2, maybe I would have played it.
Well, I can understand why. So the game ended in a draw. Now you're still at 50%. You have 2 points. Gadakomsky is really putting his foot on the pedal right now. He's at 4. Do you think about that now? Do you wonder what you need?
No, not at all. I mean, I played up to my skill, not just trying to overtake Gata. And Gata, I would say, in the first 3 games had all worse positions. So,
today he came to a little worse as well.
Really, I haven't seen that. Yeah. So, but he's just a good player. So, let him play well. And
just a good player.
Right.
That's another understatement that we've gotten. The last time we heard he was some guy. Well, thanks so much. One of the more affable grandmasters, Grandmaster Yuri Shulman, on drawing today. Hopefully he can make it happen for himself in the next few rounds. Jen and Yas.
Thank you, Maurice.
Thank you.
Thank you to Yuri. Very interesting. Sometimes when you go through these spells where you draw a lot of games, the number of missed opportunities pile up and you begin to have some self-doubts. I think Yuri wasn't 100% sure of himself today, and that's a pity because he really did have an opportunity and a clear one. And I think under a different set of circumstances he would likely have found the move King G2.
But always a very interesting player, and yeah, it goes to show it's always good to be confident in chess.
Yes, got to
And
keep that.
yeah, let's take a look at our youngsters game. Sam Sevian here, playing without an exchange, but with so few pawns on the board. Do you think White can make this happen? Yes.
Yeah, well, it's with all the pawns on one side. There are always defensive fortresses that you've got to keep in mind as White.
I'm worried
But
about
it's-
f7 here. Can we adequately defend f7?
I don't know. I just think that
After rook a7, we really
just
need to get
going-
it with the bishop and the king in order to survive, right?
right, so
And-
that the bishop could be coming to d5 very quickly.
Exactly. And if you start with, I guess you might want to start with bishop e6, therefore.
Sure, but go back just one step. So maybe White should start with bishop d5 to stop that bishop e6 option, what you were just about to point out, and go for this f-pawn with moves like rook a7 next. Looks like it should be winning for White.
Right, because if we try something like bishop g6, then you can come around the other way. And for instance, if bishop d5, bishop g6, now you can go rook f8.
This one?
Oh well, I guess you could. Well, I was thinking of rook a7. At least you have king g8.
I
But
see.
here you have knight d7.
Attacking the rook and just
Although rook f7 probably wins, right? Yeah, it looks pretty good. You don't think so?
looks pretty good.
Yeah.
It looks real good.
Rook f7, and this is an easier conversion, right?
Right.
Just because
We're seeing a lot of passed pawns
Yeah.
in the center carrying the day. This is another one of them. This looks very good for Jorge, and
So-
Sam Sevian is in trouble
in
this game.
Let's look for the second youngest player in the tournament who is celebrating his 15th birthday. How's birthday boy doing? Now, I
Wow.
know earlier we were predicting some potential time pressure because he and Ivanov had both used something like 70% of their time after just 16 moves.
We do have a result. It looks
Okay.
like a draw has been agreed. As you will recall, this was a game I actually did like Caden's position that was a little bit earlier. We'll just go through it briefly. And this is what took place. Interesting. Alexander Ivanov sacrificed a pawn for an initiative. And remember when I was saying that dark squared bishop was White's problem piece? He still had it. And it looks like Hayden declined a repetition. He was playing for the win. Whoa. The computer just jumped out of its seat after this move, knight h4. Before that time, the computer assessed the position as even or balanced. And knight h4 gave a big opportunity and looks like a missed opportunity for Alexander Ivanov.
Well,
Here.
let's see what it is. So knight takes h4, queen e1 check immediately, no biggie.
Right. So knight takes h4, queen takes h4. Ooh, queen
It's
takes
it's
b5.
a3 in this position.
Right.
With the idea that if takes on a3, we have queen to b1 check,
Precisely.
forking the king and the rook.
Precisely. So this is
And
this
if you
was
don't take, then it's just a goner. Or take on b2.
right.
Pick your poison there.
Exactly. So a3 was a big missed
So
opportunity.
let's understand why. So what's the difference? Oh, because if we play queen e1 check immediately, obviously we no longer have that battery. But so knight h4 after queen b4. Let's try to understand this in human terms if we can.
What is
So
it?
after queen b4, a3
Right.
is a threat.
Correct.
So you must stop that threat. And
Correct.
How to?
Perhaps something like queen g4, so that maybe, well, queen g3. I was about to suggest bringing the queen back, anticipating I would be able to round up this fellow, but not quite so good.
Because after Queen G,
I was, I'm sorry. Maybe I should just move the king, by the way. I was thinking Queen G4, A3, but you're not required to capture on B2, and maybe A3 is just very unpleasant because the queen's going to end up in a very bad way on A1.
And it's going to be hard to attack that pawn another time, right?
Exactly.
Because the b2 pawn is actually blocking the way for other pieces to it. So that would be pretty miserable for white. So instead, yeah, as you point out, something like king h2, and now the idea is if we play a3 now, you can simply capture it.
Right.
Right. So a little bit of a discovered attack / double attack. It's in chess usually it's two tactics kind of interacting with each other.
Right. And here we're seeing that white is just set up for this double attack with queen b1 check and queen takes c2, and that's why white has to step out of the way. Instead, Caden went for knight h4, and then after queen takes b5, he probably breathed a sigh of relief as the players ended up agreeing to a draw by likely perpetual check.
Well, I think that counts as a birthday present.
It does.
15th birthday to Caden Trofe. His opponent did miss a winning variation. Now we have a lot of results coming in.
All right.
As we do usually at this hour. Grandmaster Robson beat Mark Arnold. Alexander and Ivanov and Caden Trofe was a draw, as we just saw, and Ramirez won against Hess, and that was a fascinating struggle. Hopefully we'll hear from Alejandro. But right now we have Ray Robson with his first victory of the tournament, much weighted, I'm sure, and
Yes.
he is with Maurice Ashley.
Thanks, Jen. Here with Grandmaster Ray Robson. Congratulations on your victory today.
Thank you.
It's a long time coming. It's 4 rounds. It's been tough on the collegiate players, it seems, coming straight off of finals and trying to jump into a U.S. championship. No matter how much you try, it seems like this the weight of these finals have been affecting you guys.
Yeah, it's definitely interfered with, I guess, our preparation, and maybe we're more tired because of that. So hopefully we can start to come back, especially for me. I hope that I can come back.
Well, you play for the team at Webster University. I believe you guys have something like 8 grandmasters at the school. Is that right?
8, I think that's correct, yes.
That's insane. A powerhouse collegiate school now. You also played against a fellow collegiate player, Mark Arnold, he's also coming off finals from Indiana University. This game seemed to be a wild game in the beginning. He played G5, which is kind of typical in this opening, but we've seen the G5 virus the G-pawn virus going throughout the whole tournament. People were playing this G-pawn on every board, it seemed like. But this position seemed okay for Black. Did you think that you had a big edge any point in the game until the very end?
This point, I was definitely not sure about the position. It was very complicated. My last move was bishop d2, so I was prepared to sacrifice a pawn in the exchange if he had played knight takes d3, and queen e3, knight takes c1. And
so you're saying this capture here, which looks very natural, and this move, and now knight takes on c1.
And then I thought the best was knight d5.
Uncovering an attack by this bishop on the queen.
Queen c4.
Now he's attacking your rook in the corner.
Yep.
I mean, on the side.
I have to play rook takes c1.
Rook takes, solving that problem.
And now he has to play e takes d5, otherwise knight c7. And I take his queen, he takes back, and probably knight a5. And although I'm down material, he has 2 rooks for a queen and an extra pawn. I do have an initiative, so I was not sure about this position, if I'm better or maybe it's just unclear, but he was down to about 2 minutes also, so I thought this would still be a good position for me to play.
So the time pressure factored in as well, especially with knights and queens and unusual distribution, particularly his king in the middle too. Understood. Well, this didn't happen, in fact. In this moment, he played this move, bishop b5.
Yeah, I was not expecting that, and I think what I did was best. I just played knight d5 anyway.
Again, uncovering an attack on his queen. He played bishop takes d3 check. That you don't mind, king over. And then he took your pawn on e4.
And now, maybe he was expecting originally knight c7 check, and then I take the rook, but he has 2 pawns for the exchange, and he's relatively safe. So I think I found a better move. I took the bishop on e7, so now his dark squares are very weak without this
And here he went for your rook on f1, and then you played this amazing move, knight to c8. Did he seem shocked when this move appeared on the board?
Didn't seem shocked, although I don't think he had time to. He probably had 30 seconds or a minute. So now I think it's winning for me. Just I have too many pieces in the attack, and his king's not safe in the middle, so it should be a winning attack.
Indeed, this knight fork coming back here, attacking king and queen is a huge threat. And in this position, he saved his queen, and then knight takes d6 check, king d7, and then the lady shows up, and it just looks pretty terrible right now. So the finish was rook fc8, knight takes c8, rook takes, and then queen d4 check, and he resigned. So satisfying victory at the end. Your first victory of the tournament. You're standing at how many points now?
1.5.
1.5. Kind of a bit distance from Gadakamsky at 4. Are you thinking at all about maybe still winning this tournament, or maybe just playing your best?
Well, before yesterday's game, I was still thinking about it. Now I just want to have a decent performance, and I just don't want to lose any more games. So just try to come back.
Well, we wish you the best in that effort, and congratulations on your win today.
Thank you.
Grandmaster Ray Robson with his first victory. Back to you, Jen and Yas.
Wow, well, I appreciate that Grandmaster Robson was the first one to give a real answer to how are you going to take the rest of the tournament. No more losses.
I like that.
No
yeah.
more game. No more. None of this one game at a time.
No,
We've heard that before.
No, and I know that feeling very well. There comes a time that you just want to stop the bleeding and the pain, and Ray hit it right on the head. No more losses. Just let's have a good performance in the games and ahead in the tournament.
And it's good to get the monkey off your back, and now I think we're going to see some good things from Ray.
More tournament results? Do we
Yes,
have?
we do have a Ramirez defeated Hess, and he's going to be with us shortly.
All right. And a very big game still between Anna Zatonsky. I know that she lost the previous round to Irina. Huge result, as we spoke about. But today, it looks like she's bouncing back against Victoria Ni with a fine victory with the black pieces. So Irina cannot afford to relax.
No, well, especially not with Tatev. Tatev's only half a point back.
Also.
So that's big, and she hasn't played Tatev yet. So, of course, it would be impossible for her to win all her games and play against somebody with just one draw.
Exactly.
So my math skills creeping in here.
Bravo.
But that'll be a really big game.
Yes.
Tatev and Irina.
Yes, it will.
And we do have Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez, who played a beautiful game today. Lots of interesting tactics, and we're going to hear from him and Maurice Ashley.
Thanks, Jen. With Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez, you won today. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
How'd you feel about the game, where you played?
Well, I think I was ahead the entire game. I went into the game with quite a bit of confidence. I wanted revenge because I lost yesterday against Conrad, and looking at it with the computer, I had a draw, a safe at the end that was almost miraculous, and I didn't find it. So I really wanted to at least try to push with white, and I felt that I was ahead the entire game, so I was pretty happy about that.
And the finish, was it the kind of pretty finish you wanted?
Yeah, I think I made a slight mistake that I shouldn't have been getting into time trouble when there was no reason to, because I was already up the exchange, so all I had to do was keep the position simple, not really allow him any counterplay. And instead of that, I started to calculate unnecessary variations. Luckily, one of them did work, and it was this variation with Queen 8 and Knight E6. And, well, I mean, I still had just enough time to calculate it, so I was happy about that.
Now, we've been blaming poor play on the collegiate players on the fact that they just had finals, but you just graduated from, which college is it? University of Texas at Dallas.
At Dallas, yes.
So what's your excuse for not playing, for having a bad game?
I guess I'm a little bit out of form. Believe it or not, I haven't been playing as much. I've been very involved with chessbase.com, and I've been doing some annotations for them. I'm a co-editor now. So I've been doing a little bit more of chess journalism than playing, and I think it's reflecting on my game. I wish I could play a little bit more faster, but luckily I wasn't as rusty as Hess was today. Yeah,
we in the chess journalism circles know exactly what you're talking about. Yaz would definitely agree with me. All right, so you're still sitting pretty, though. Maybe not as pretty as Kamsky at 4, but you do have 2.5 points.
Oh, Kamsky won again? Wow.
Yeah, he's pulling off
pretty amazing
miracles every game. What do you feel about your prospects moving forward?
Well, going into the tournament, I didn't really come with any expectations. Having +1 is pretty good. I mean, I'm performing above my rating. I'm playing, I think, pretty good chess. My whites have been really good so far, so I just want to go into halftime with at least a positive score.
Okay, well, congratulations on your victory today and best of luck in the rest of the tournament.
Well, thank you.
With Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez, so victory today, moving on. Jen and Yas?
Grandmaster Ramirez looking sharp. His shirt matches your tie.
Well, there you go. I mean, good taste.
Team Burgundy.
You bet. Well, congratulations to Alejandro as he gets back to his winning ways. The game he lost with Conrad Holt, that was the Benko Gambit, and I can understand, you just feel, well, nobody likes a loss, but an undeserved loss, and he felt that he had to draw all the way at the very end that he missed. Okay.
But how do you think Ivanov feels after this game? After missing A3? Probably it was because of time pressure.
Yes.
It was probably time because
Alexander,
Ivanov gets into major time pressure. I mean, I've
Right.
seen him in tournaments where he just starts thinking on move one. And he's a fantastically prepared player.
Right.
So it seems that it's almost like this adoration for chess, kind of like starting from zero every game. It's kind of romantic, but it also seems a bit absurd, right?
Right.
So, you have all this preparation and you start thinking on move one.
Right.
20,
right.
And we're talking like 20, 30 minutes sometimes.
You have to be.
You see that,
Yes.
right?
Oh yes. You have to be practical, and sometimes he loses that in his time trouble. It's almost addicted to the rush of being under pressure.
Yes, and he was raving about the fact that the 30-second increment, Ivanov was saying how the 30-second increment improves the quality of his games because it's kind of like the time control is managing the time for the player.
Precisely.
So you can't get into those 2-second situations. And I do like the 30-second increment because I think it creates fewer insane situations where the arbiter has to just make a call.
Right.
Or pieces are flying.
Right.
Just like ugly things that can happen. At least some type of increment. Even if it's not 30 seconds, there should be something.
No, I like the 30-second increment. I really do. I think it's very good for the players. More importantly, very good for the quality of the game.
Yes. Although some of us do like to see the kind of the Schadenfreude, or seeing a person with 5 seconds less, and will it happen? Will it flag? It's kind of fun to watch sometimes. Though plenty of people lose on time even with a 30-second increment. Now, maybe we'll get more insight on how big time pressure Ivanov was in, because we do have the birthday boy, international master Caden Trofe, with Maurice Ashley.
Thanks, Jen. Well, first of all, happy birthday.
Thanks.
All of 15 years old. How does it feel?
Feels good. a lot of chess in those years, so.
Oh wow.
Exciting.
I started chess at 14. Can you imagine? I'm like an old man.
No, I can't even imagine that.
So you had a game today against Alexander Ivanov, which those of us who played him over the years know he always gets into time pressure. Was he in time pressure again today?
Very, very much so. There was one point he sat there for a long time, and okay, there was a lot of time being spent, but I'm just like, we're really early in the game, and you're giving me this huge time advantage. That could cost you, and I was really surprised by that.
Now, you played a good game, but at some point you got this position, and it turns out that you made a serious error here, probably in his time pressure, which is something people are famous for doing. You play the move knight to h4, and it turns out the computer goes nuts when you do that because of this move a3.
Well, you probably should take first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. Let's back up 1 second.
So knight takes h4.
Knight takes, queen takes, and now this move a3. And it looks like you're in trouble. Pawn takes is not possible because of queen check winning your rook. You obviously didn't see that during the game.
No, I saw it a few moves later, but I didn't see it here. And then someone was showing me while I kind of just sitting around. He's like, "You realize you were?" I'm like, "Oh no, I didn't." Yeah, we were both getting kind of low here, so it was tough.
So that time pressure cost him because if he had some time, he probably would have found this move.
Yeah,
a strong grandmaster like that.
I think we were both getting minute and a half ish here, so it was the pressure was starting to come.
Well, sometimes luck plays a big role in these tournaments. Yeah. I've heard you did a music video. This is kind of exciting, a chess player getting into music videos. I think we might have footage of that video to show you getting involved. Here we go. I believe a rock a rock band, is it, that's doing this video you were a part of?
I'm not sure you call it rock. It's more kind of like, I mean, they have 2 violins and a piano, so kind of gets a classical kind of sound. It really was, it was kind of crazy. The only reason I'm really in it is because I'm a good chess player, and the idea of chess for this music sounded great. And you know, you kind of see the music and the chess really go well together. And for me, my personal favorite is those moments when you just hear the clock sound and it just stops, and then all of a sudden the music gets back up and the chess starts going, and that for me is really exciting.
Really cool. Well, we see Magnus Carlsen doing G-Star commercials and being a spokesperson, and you doing music videos. It's great to see the young players really taking the mantle of chess to the worldwide audience. So congratulations on your game today, and we wish you the best in the rest of the tournament.
Thanks.
International Master Caden Schroff on a pretty good game today. One little hiccup, but he'll be fine. Jen and Yaz?
Very nice, and we just did see some footage.
I'm mesmerized by the video.
Those of you who got a little preview of it, you can find it on YouTube, TLC Trio. Caden's also got a Facebook page where he has a lot of photos on it. I think that's a chess champion, Caden Schroff. You can look that up on Facebook. We also just posted it on the USCF website. Really a cool video, and nice to see some kind of unique promotions of chess there.
I love it. I do. New generation, new ideas. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And again, the maturity of these players, these young, youthful chess players.
I know, I mean, I can see a 15-year-old
fantastic.
grandmaster, but a 15-year-old James Bond?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, exactly. No, that's very cool. Very, very cool. But again, I mean, we chess grandmasters, chess educators, love to say that chess has a positive benefit on children, helps developing young minds, the gymnasium of the mind, and all sorts of other superlatives. I'm going to just change it and say chess helps you mature. That's it, you know, just teaches maturity.
Absolutely true. I like that. I like that because also one of the things I noticed growing up is if you're a chess player, you're more used to like kind of interacting with people of different cultures and different ages.
Especially adults, yes.
Yeah,
exactly so.
I mean, a lot of like 14, 15-year-olds, like except for their parents and their teachers, they don't have, you know, conversations with people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and where they're equals.
Right.
You know, that's very, very rare.
That's true. I always felt that chess was my entree into the adult world, as it allowed me to sit at the table and talk with people much older than me and really enjoy their company. So yeah, the maturity of Sam Sevian and Caden, wow, just great. I'm blown away.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Sometimes it's the kids that are the mature ones in certain situations. I remember in the opening ceremony, Sam Sevian's father, who's very animated, you know, started fist pumping when he saw that Kamsky drew the white color, because that meant that Sam Sevian was most likely going to get 5 whites in the tournament. And Sevian's just sitting there like totally chill.
But the dad was super happy, right? Okay. Well, bring us up to date. How are we standing in the tournaments? Do we have
a win
more
yet?
Results?
Well, we mentioned earlier that Tatev and Irina is going to be a big matchup in the women's championship. Tatev now playing great with 3.5 out of 4. Irina looking poised to increase her score to 4-0, just like Kata Kamsky. And those two are going to play in the penultimate round. So round 8, we're going to see Tatev and Irina face off. Tatev with white. So it's going to be quite an exciting game. And
that will undoubtedly decide the women's title right there. That game is the key game. So
something to look forward to in the women's championship.
Without question. We do have this wild game still going on between the two Alexes, Alex Shabalov versus Alex Onishuk. When we went back, shocking to me, really, because I know Shabalov is such a tactical player. You know, when we got to this position, oops, I apologize. Where were we? I wanted to go back and say here. This is where we saw that nice little, I got to grab the rook.
Rook A6,
Rook A6.
Drawing combination.
Absolutely, and the computer goes, boom, draw. You know, just really, that would have been great. But instead, what we've seen, and it's a wild position, White has won black's queen, as we can see here, for a rook and a bishop. But that's not the salient feature of the position. The salient feature is all of these black pawns, most critically this pawn on d2. And it's clear that black he just wants to queen his pawns, but at the same time he has to avoid perpetual check. Let's see how the game went. We get to this point. Check, check. Shabalov doing his best to try to make it as difficult as possible for black to advance his pawns. We have this position, and it is white to play. I think, the computer at least thinks that it's not quite a lost cause, but a big advantage for
So how are we going to
black
escape
at
all the
this moment.
checks? Like queen c7 check?
Queen
Let's
c7
just get out of
check.
it.
It's probably, remarkably enough, the king is probably just going to go for a walk. Ooh, wait
Whoa.
a minute, not the bishop. I'm not going to lose the bishop.
You know, I mean,
Sorry.
yeah, you don't really want to give up the bishop.
No, I
D1.
didn't want to give up the bishop.
I mean, we could play d1 queen in the end,
Right.
but that's not what exactly, you were hoping for it easier.
Exactly.
Okay, so after rook d7, queen c5 check?
Again, and we'll see, where should I go? Some reasons to go to d8? No, I don't think so. Let's just keep marching up the board.
And then queen c6 check?
Makes sense. And this time I can finally play rook d6, interfering with my rook.
And now with queen e8 check?
Queen e8 check, also. Okay, now I think I can slide over, and I don't see another check for you at this moment.
Which means d1 queen is coming.
Precisely.
All right, so somehow Alexander Onashuk here with another immaterial imbalance. I think we've had our fair share of imbalances in this tournament. It seems like there's all sorts of unique ones. You know, normally you don't see that often.
Right, and it's happening almost every single round. So I think that really, by the way, is due to the players and the way the Swiss system actually works, where the winners are constantly being paired. And those pairings, you know you need to win in a Swiss tournament. You have to have a high score. So I think a lot of the players understood that coming into the game, and they decided that they were just going to play their most risky, all-out openings and defenses that they need to win as many games as they possibly can. And with Gata running away at 4-0, now the other players trailing behind realize if they have any chances of catching him, they're going to have to play extremely well.
Now we have another question from a Twitter follower about who Gata Komsky is likely to play tomorrow. And it looks like, based on this game, it's probably going to be Alexander Onashuk.
Yes.
Because Larry Christensen has 3 points, but Gata's already played him.
Precisely.
And nobody else will have 3.
We haven't looked
except maybe Benjamin versus Akobian, if there's a decisive result there.
Exactly. We haven't looked at that game for a while. According to our instantaneous look, the computer thinks that the game's pretty balanced, but if anybody has an advantage, the computer is giving a smidgen of an edge to Joel Benjamin, who has the white pieces against Varakobian.
And that dangerous looking pawn, but well blockaded by the bishop on g8.
Right.
So
let's see how it would go. That's an interesting move, and not that it turns out that maybe this knight on c8 and knight on e7 is actually not very well placed. The computer, interestingly enough, likes the move knight c8, and I would definitely not call that a human move. If anything, I would probably wanted to play knight f8, knight f5, pardon me, followed by king e7, so I could stop this pawn. So for example, in case of here, we just see a quick variation that I'm putting on the board. White in this line is emerging a pawn up and a very big advantage. So that was why the move knight c8, which we understand, or can best understand, after the swap, this capture, and this recapture. This is where the computer thinks that black should be able to draw and b5 and another trade and so on. So probably he would play whom?
well, Onashuk, assuming that he wins that game against Shabalov.
Who, of course, is our number 3 seed. And if anybody's going to beat Kamsky, you got to think that Alex Onishuk.
Although we have that same situation from a tournament standpoint, I sure would have liked to see Onishuk get the white pieces.
Yes.
But Gata Kamsky will likely get his due color and be playing white.
Right.
So that's really tough though. I mean, playing Kamsky with white, but Kamsky is going to be in kind of a tricky situation because on one hand, he might want to play something more solid than usual because he knows that he's just running away with it at this point. And Onishuk is basically his top rival at that point.
Exactly.
So he might want to play more solidly than usual, but then there's a counter argument. If he wins this game, the Fischer Prize is within his horizon.
Right.
And I don't believe him when he says he thinks it's impossible. I just don't believe him. I think it is in his mind that if he manages to beat Onishuk with white, it's only 4 games. And at least one of those games is going to be probably against somebody who's not in that top tier because of the oddity of Swiss pairings.
Yeah, well, obviously to get a perfect score, you've got to start perfectly well, and 4-0 is an impressive start. But I'm kind of sharing Gata's skepticism. It's very, very hard to pull off 9 in a row. On the other hand, in terms of playing Onishuk, at a certain point you just stop playing solid. You start saying to yourself, hey, wait a minute, like you heard Yuri Shulman and the other players, hey, Gata's just getting lucky. He's got just a lot of poor positions that he's pulling out a win. And if that's true, well, just keep pressing your luck. Just go all the way forward. And so I'm thinking that against Onishuk, should he play, and it looks like they will, Gata should just go all out. Why not?
I agree. He might as well try. And so you're saying that you don't even think it's a factor in, not that, obviously Gata's just going to play chess. These guys are too good to so-called play for a draw. But let's just say it's like a difference in maybe an opening choice, like one that's hyper-aggressive and one that's like more normal. You don't even think that it's a factor, the Fischer Prize at this point, because he just thinks it's impossible.
Right.
It just doesn't enter into his mind.
Not at this point.
But if he beats Onishuk, then it will start to. Or you think he has to go 6-0 for it to start becoming
I
a
almost
factor?
think you have to go 7-0, really.
So, I don't know. It's $64,000 is a lot of moolah. I think you'd start thinking about it with 6 points.
Okay.
But he will never, I'll tell you this, he'll never admit to Maurice. He could be 8-0 in the last round, and he's saying, I'm taking it 1 game at a time.
Right, sure.
I'm not thinking about that.
That we won't accept.
And speaking of Maurice, Grandmaster Maurice Ashley has something for us.
Well, I wanted to follow up on your point, Jen. Of course, I'm going to badger him every single round as much as I can to get him to say that he really wants to go 9-0. The thing, though, that I think you should take into account is, first of all, the tournament's very early on. It's only 4 points that he has out of 9, so it's a long way to go. But you also have people who are chasing him who no longer have to play him. Someone like Larry Christensen, for example, who we know is a beast and will try to kill everybody he's sitting in front of and is not happy at all that he lost his game to Kamsky. He's won this tournament several times before, and he must be thinking, look, I'm just going to have to beat people because I'm trying to win this tournament. So even though Gata might not be looking to go 9-0, he's going to have to still rack up points. He can't start thinking, oh, a draw is going to get it done, because people are still in the hunt. Jen and Yaz?
That is a good point. You do have to keep your eyes on the prize, which is the U.S. Championship title, very prestigious.
Oh yes. But you want to secure a good result, and as Maurice is saying, Larry, at this point in his career too, another factor that enters into it is, like how many opportunities do you get to become U.S. champion? And one of the things that wily veterans like Larry, myself, Maurice, yourself for that matter, if you weren't just doing commentating, is when you do get that opportunity to play for the U.S. Championship or even to try to clinch the title, you seize it. You just put everything else out of your mind and focus and go. If Larry's in contention going in the last 2 rounds, I wouldn't count him out of it, not at all. He could pull off upsets, and as Maurice says, he's already played Gata.
That's true, yeah. But we shall see. And
I
so
do
this
have a game.
position looks pretty awful for Sam Sevian here.
Our youngest participant in the U.S. Championship, the youngest participant ever, 12-year-old Sam Sevian, trying to hold a position. He's an exchange down, but all the pawns are on the same side of the board. The problem, it would be great for Sam. He would play knight takes f5 in a heartbeat if it was his move, and I suspect in that case he could make a draw. The problem he's facing is this move, rook a8, f8, going after this f7 pawn. There's no way for black to defend that pawn, and then after, let's say, this trade, knight takes f5, rook takes f7, in case of this move, king g6, I think the simplest is just to play rook to f8. And notice how this rook controls the f-file, keeping black's king at bay from, dare I say it again, another central passer?
This just looks crushing for Jorge Zamora has been, and much as it is unfortunate to see our 12-year-old falter, it's also kind of nice to see Jorge, such an incredible talent, coming back to the game after mostly playing blitz and rapid, and
Yes.
he's usually just so good at blitz and rapid. But I know that he's amazing to watch. He's so good at like 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute chess. He's fantastic. But he. I think is normally a kind of a time pressure addict, but he seems to be handling his clock very well in this tournament. So maybe he just solved that before the tournament, some psychology, just kind of woke up.
Well, he had those 2 setbacks at the start of the tournament, and as he said it, he's finding the best way to lose. Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory in his game with Shabalov, that was really, really painful. But you're right, he is a blitz specialist of sorts. And here, well, of course, they're playing classical time controls. He's adjusting well, and we'll see. Again, it is early. It feels like so much has happened in 4 rounds already, that a lot of action has already taken place. It's not even halfway in the tournament, and we got a lot of chess ahead of us.
Drama-filled indeed. How is Irina Krush doing in closing out that game against Angelina?
I thought she was doing well. Let's go give it a quick check-see. Well, she's managed to keep her material advantage. When we left, we were around these parts. A very solid extra pawn in the Irina's last move was bishop c3, a very nice move, by the way, just cutting off the connection between black's 2 rooks that were bearing down on the g3 pawn, switcheroo, going for the g3 pawn. Rook e3, I must confess myself, I would have been more tempted by the immediate e5, rook e3, bishop e5. So Angelina probably calculated that her best chance lies in this double rook ending, 4 rook ending, I should say. And we're here. Well, the first thing is, how about getting our king into play and playing g4? And then if we can play g4 and bring our king to g4 and f5, that surely will lead to a win for white.
Oh yes, with those 2 passed pawns, I think Irina's got this one in the bag, and that'll be. But it'll be a long fight because Angelina is known for being a big fighting player, so she's not going to resign until it's like really clear. And I don't mean that in a negative way, because in the rook end games, if somebody slips up too many times, things can turn around. So
They're notoriously drawn, rook endings, even when you're pawn, or even 2 for that matter, ahead. The defender has great opportunity. So you're right, Angelina's not giving up for a long while. And let me again just
and for another interesting game in the Women's Championship, which we haven't checked into, is Kamila Bahinskaite against Elena Katz. And there we've got another material imbalance where we've got another exchange where white has gotten the 2 bishops and has also kind of imprisoned some of black's pieces. I think you're going to like taking a look at this unusual position. So white with 2 bishops, that terrible bishop on a8, but black with an extra exchange. But I see a big problem, and that big problem is h4. Today is the day of unstoppable pawns.
Right.
And that bishop on e5, so well poised to
just dominate the position.
Yes, I mean, obviously for the moment, the rook on a7 is stopping it from marching to h7, but our plan could even be to stick a bishop g7 in at an opportune moment.
Right. Well, here I must say Camilla looks like she's playing her best game of the tournament, because this is a beautiful positional control game by white. And personally, I just love the idea of improving my king, maybe just bringing the king up to f4 before deciding about whether I should push my pawn to h5. I think Camilla is winning this game hands down.
Oh, this makes a grand positional impression indeed. It's a really beautiful position here by Camilla Vahenskaite, giving the youngster a real tough grind here.
A good lesson indeed. Sometimes it's nice to have a dominating bishop on e5 for an exchange, especially with an past
Beautiful
h-pawn.
bishop. You got to take a picture of that bishop.
Right.
So we've got Alexander Shabab and Onishuk, which seems to be one of the most thrilling rounds of the day. It just looked fantastic for black. But let's check in on Onishuk and his king dashing technique.
Okay.
Has he been able to avoid all these perpetuals? And when it becomes clear to Shaba that he has, the game will be over.
Right. Well, when we left it, that was precisely what Shabalov was trying to do, was create a perpetual check, and Alex Onishuk was doing his best to avoid the perpetual check. I think we got a line like this ourselves, Jen.
Yes, very similar.
That we were going to this. And here we are, and it's according to the computer, Onishuk has made tremendous progress as he's gone from a 1.5 pawn advantage, basically doubling it to 3 pawn advantage. And the computer is saying, if you go king g6, you just ran out of checks.
Well, we
and
have
you're
one
facing,
more.
Oops, you certainly do. I apologize.
Queen e4.
Right.
Well, at least one more.
At least one more, several more. What
So
am
now after king f6.
Right. And I guess the idea is if you give us 2 more checks, I guess the idea is we just want to put our bishop on e5. Does that make sense?
And allow f4 and then just queen?
Yeah.
And allow queen takes e5 check, because now this f4 move has induced a weakness on the second rank.
Right.
So now the queen is taboo, whereas before we were looking at positions with the pawn on f2 here, and we just, probably that's winning for black too, but you just didn't want to get into that. It seemed too dominant for black to go into that 2 rooks versus queen endgame.
Right.
You preferred to kind of keep your bishop as well.
Keep the bishop, yes.
Yeah. So that's a nice line, but it's not that obvious. Of course, Onishuk's a fantastic player, so he'll probably see it. But I think it's a little counterintuitive to play bishop e5, allowing f4, especially when you have to analyze it far in advance, because we're looking at all the different queen checks. Computers always tend to make things look easy when, and we've seen that in the tournament that, if you're watching at home with your engine, like the computer sees so many things that humans don't see, and it doesn't make chess any less fantastic. It's just, just a car runs faster than a marathon runner, right?
There you go. Well, here the problem is if you don't play the move bishop e5, you have a little bit of problem getting out of the perpetual check.
Exactly, so you have to see it. So you're
Right.
saying that you think you're confident that Onishuk will walk into this variation?
Oh, yes.
But there's probably some other ways too that might be. You don't think there's any other way? Because before we were looking at like another kind of king walk.
Well, the problem is that you're repeating the position in this particular case.
Right, but what about going back to d8?
Oh, yeah.
I just think that there's so many different possible ways here, and the one with putting your bishop on e5 seems a little bit less human to me.
Really?
This one seems more human.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. I mean,
'Cause here-
these days I don't know what it means to be human.
But queen h4. Queen h4, bishop f6 now stops all the checks, right?
Queen h4 check, bishop. Yes, but okay, after, for example, a move like queen g4, attacks your bishop, defends d1 for the moment. Still a bit messy, lurking messes. Bishop f6, perhaps? Well, here I can imagine, for example, how white could climb his way back into the game thanks to this h-pawn. Keep in mind, you don't want to fall into a trick like this, where you play c4 prematurely and leave queen g8 takes b3.
Hey, we've got enough pawns. We can jettison one of them. But we've got
Really? Okay.
no, but we don't want to make it. We want to make it as hard for our opponent as possible.
Right.
We don't want to give them any counterplay. But we do have Grandmaster Ashley with an update on a game we haven't seen in a while: Norowitz and Feingold.
Thanks, Jen. Well, as you said, computers make fools of us all. And this game, there was an opportunity for Ben Feingold, the club resident, to play a superstar move that he missed, but so deep to analyze it. It was incredible. In this position here, it is White's turn to move. White saw this threat of this knight plunging into the d3 square, forking just about all of his pieces. Rook here, queen over here, and another rook over here. So he said that's too much of a threat. So he played the move queen to e2 to deal with it. However, he must have seen another move. This move, knight to e4, looks a little funky because his knight's under attack, but actually his rook is attacking this queen, and he's forking two pieces as well. And he must have calculated this line and said, and this doesn't work. But it turns out if he had looked a little bit deeper, and this is a line I'm pretty sure he saw, this queen sacrifice looks amazing for black. And after rook takes with check, and he said, if I take this, the guy's just going to fork me, and, I'm going to lose my queen too. But if he had looked a little bit deeper in this line, he gets this rook at the end, and suddenly it's material equality, but only for the moment, because this f7 pawn is going to die. He cannot be protected, and then maybe even these other pawns on this side. So White's going to have a decisive material advantage. He didn't play this, got into trouble, and now he's actually in a lot of trouble. Looks like he's losing his game right now. Jen and Yas?
Beautiful opportunity there. Classic knight e4 double attack. And Maurice is right on the money, right? That for certain Ben saw that, but he just, like Maurice said, he probably calculated that position up until the time that he loses his queen and said, oh, that's not good for me, misjudging that once the knight does end up on the d6 square, well, guess what? There's no defending the pawn on f7, so missed opportunity by Ben Feingold here in round 4, costing him dearly because I have it as Yakov stickers Norowitz as winning. Is that a confirmed result, Jen?
What's that?
Is that a confirmed result, Yakov winning?
I think that is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll find out soon.
All
And we also have Anna Zatansky here, so let's take a quick look at Irina Krush as we're getting her set up for her interview. I think we were just looking at it, and it looked like a technical exercise here for Irina. She's marched her pawn to a6.
We left it around these parts, and we thought Irina really had things sewn up. I thought g4 was the simplest, but Irina chose rook a8, king g6, and just pushing her a pawn up the board now. That was going to freeze black's rook behind white's a pawn. c5 was played, a6, and we have this situation. Hold on, what just happened? Rook takes a6. I believe that has been played.
Oh.
So is Irina planning to go straight into a king and pawn endgame? Something like this? Probably she can do something like this and win. Maybe king g2, king here, king here.
You think she's calculated this endgame out? I don't
That's
know, though,
weird.
because if you calculate something like this and you're wrong, you're like, oh,
No,
there's so
but-
many other ways for her to play. Maybe she can gobble on some pawns.
Okay, you think there's a simpler win than this. So
Well, we
Angelina
can
has
take twice
captured on
a6,
a6.
but I
right?
think trying to push the pawn really forward and make it easy for black to capture it. We can start with e6,
Yes.
and then maybe after rook to a8,
Yes.
something different here perhaps.
Okay.
We've got some moves on the board.
No,
It looks
the
like we
players
have some
caught
updates
up.
in the board.
Right, the players have caught up to us.
Oh,
This
okay,
is the
this is in the
position.
position. Okay.
Right.
So now, does Irina have something more settled? Well, we'll find out very soon. But let's now go to Anna Zatonsky, who just won her game and now has 3 points in the U.S. Women's Championship.
Yeah.
She is with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Thanks, Jen. Here with Anna Zatonsky. Anna, congratulations on your victory today.
Yeah, thank you, Maurice.
Were you winning all the way through? Was it a straight dominant performance, or did you have to overcome some real resistance?
She played very solid line in Slav defense exchange variation, so it's very difficult to win, and she is a solid chess player, so it was very difficult. I had to find some moves, and I took some risk. I think she could get advantage during the game.
Did you take this risk because you feel you need to start winning all your games because of what happened yesterday?
No. I don't know. This is just how you can, someone who is lower rated than you need to take some risk. But she's a very good chess player, and I know like she's not feeling well, so maybe in other situations she would beat me. I don't know.
Talking about yesterday, your main rival, that was a very difficult game. She played well. You both played well for quite some time in this game.
I'm not sure. I think it's like some ideas. If she would play instead of bishop g4, maybe knight g4, she was just so much better.
Well, we don't have the position in front of us, but
yeah.
So you're saying that you think that she could have played better, or you could have played better?
Like we both played better, and I'm not sure if it's a very good game. We played better games than this one, I think. Yeah.
I see. And now that you have 3 points, or it looks like she might be cruising to 4, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
You're sort of not in control of the tournament anymore. It's really up to her if she keeps winning all her games. How do you go into your mindset of these future games?
I told you before the tournament, like my attitude to the tournament.
Well, remind our new listeners.
Okay. I already told before the tournament, so it's I will probably take break from chess. So I think it doesn't really matter my performance here. And okay, it's not a final. I know many chess players after losing the game, they say, okay, I will stop playing chess. Yeah. But I told you, remember, before the tournament.
Yes, and which is very. I mean,
yeah,
this is.
But we will see. We will see. I will still play in some, but not big tournaments. So.
The reasons for this are your children.
Not emotionally ready to say like all the reasons, and yes, like family and stuff.
I see. Well, we hope things work out and you don't quit chess because
no,
you're a fantastic player.
I'm not quitting chess. I'm not saying that I quit and just will take a break. So.
Okay. Well, you still have a lot of room to go in this tournament. Anything could happen. It's only 4 rounds, so we wish you the best in your future games.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks to Anna Zatonsky for her interview, and back to you, Jen Yas. I'm starting to lose it.
I feel you, Maurice. It's been a long day. Too much excitement. Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, there's never too much excitement here at the St. Louis Chess Club. But yeah, most of our games are wrapping up here. We were just looking at this Krush Belikovskaya game in which E6 just occurred, and then Rook A8, and now Irina is trying to find the best way to go here. And as we take a look at this game, we also have Yakov Norwitz, who is getting set up for an interview with
Stickers.
Grandmaster Ashley.
Stickers is with us in our audience.
Yes, and for those of you who weren't watching on Saturday, we call him Stickers because he, on the Sabbath, can't write down moves.
That's right.
Because it's considered work.
That's
but he
right.
is permitted to use stickers with chess notation on them.
That's right.
To complete, you have to take chess notation, especially when there's a 30-second increment. That's one of the ideas of the 30-second increment, that it's always going to give you enough time to write down a move. Now, will it give you enough time to place 3 stickers down? I don't know. A blitz sticker competition. I think that would be perfect for Yakov Norwitz because he's known to be a fantastic blitz player,
right?
Especially the bullet time controllers. And maybe he'll tell us a little bit more about that. He's with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Thanks, Jen. Here with Yakov Norwitz. After your victory, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Maurice.
So, your first U.S. championship, what has it been like? I mean, I remember my first one. It was a completely novel experience, confusing, playing all these great players. What's your experience been?
It's been fun. You know, it's just every game is an adventure. I never know what's going to happen, win, loss, or draw. Just trying to play well, and I was happy when I got my first draw. Now I know I can't get zipped, and, and now I can try to beat everybody. Now I could just, you know, go out and try to beat everybody. But I was happy to get my first draw and just get it on the paper.
Very good attitude. You are known as a blitz specialist. That's what you like to do, is play quick chess. How has the transition been playing against these fine players in the slower time control?
Yeah, I've been playing more tournaments, so I'm kind of becoming a hybrid. Kind of becoming a hybrid. I like to think of myself as a future slow specialist as well.
Indeed, we wish that for you.
Thank you.
Now, in this position, how did the game go, first of all, before this moment? Did you feel that things were under control, or were just
I
just
felt
wild?
it was under control, but I wasn't sure if I'm playing for a winner or a draw. I wasn't sure if I had when to break, when to go for advantage, if to go for advantage. You know, when I play, I always have basically in my mind my coach Roman Jen Shahade. I know he's watching the game. Well, he tells me I'll be watching.
He was one of the top 10 players in the world.
Yes,
Roman.
I have learned
strong
everything
grandmaster for
I
a
know
long
from
time.
him. I've learned everything I know. A lot. I mean, yeah. And I know he's watching, and I know he has a sword on top of my head. You know, he's ready to bash his computer when he. So I have to play the best move. I just have to try and play the best move.
And we know Roman. He's a
He's
burly guy. He's
burly
strong.
guy. He doesn't care. He gives it to me on the head. Oh my God! In Iceland, I had a good tournament, but I was drawing some 2,600 FIDE guys, and Roman gave him on the head like, "This is ridiculous. We cannot continue like this." And I knew I had to win the next two, and I won the next two.
Wow!
It's just the fear of Roman.
Oh, good coaching.
Yeah, the fear.
Well, he would have been very angry if you hadn't found this next move.
Knight
And you
takes
played a
A3.
really star move right now.
Knight takes A3.
When you play this move, was it difficult to control yourself? The excitement of the moment, it must have been a thrill to
I don't remember
to
what
drop
move.
this
This
move.
was move 40. Yeah, it
The
was
40th move, even time control, such a critical
the
decision.
time. I don't know if you guys saw the time exact, but it was crazy. It was.
We didn't.
We had about 30 seconds left. We were playing only on increment the last 5 moves. It was crazy. I can't believe how I played this well.
Well, you're a blitz specialist, so
Doesn't
you
matter.
must have favored. But
Yeah.
actually, Ben is a bit of a blitz specialist himself.
Oh yeah, you better
So
believe
both
it.
of you, I wouldn't even have any doubts you're going to finish this game on
I'm
time.
very, very proud of myself. I kept composed. I just relaxed and pretended it was a blitz game. I didn't pretend it was it was a tournament game or anything. I just pretended it was a blitz game, and I have 30 seconds left. Okay, just trying to find the best move.
For you, 30 seconds, you can make 30
It's a
moves.
lot, but I've had history of becoming nervous in time pressure in
in a
tournaments.
slow game.
In a slow game.
Despite the fact that you're a blitz specialist.
Correct. And now I played as if it was a blitz game.
Very good
So
adjustment.
I was very, very happy.
Well,
about
that was a great moment for you. The capture here, and you were able to capture on C1 and win an exchange, and go on to win power.
And the cute moment that if rook here, rook C2, if queen takes C1,
Now,
then rook C2
then
check.
rook C2 check first.
Yes, I almost missed that.
And pick everything up after
Pick everything
takes,
up,
takes,
yeah.
king back, and then this check,
Absolutely.
picking off the knight. Very nice.
I was so happy, yeah.
The beautiful finish, a beautiful variation because it finished differently. So last thing, everybody's starting to call you stickers now because we didn't know that on the Sabbath you can't write your moves down, but you can. But someone came up with the idea of using stickers to record the moves of the game.
Yeah, my other person my other mentor who I owe my chess to is Dr. Richard Lewis, and he started me out. Him and Roman have given me everything I know in chess, and he had an idea that I could use stickers instead of writing. You could use stickers, and I wasn't sure if I could play the tournament because it's very, very strict the Sabbath, and you know I can't write down the moves. And he said, and he woke up 2 days later. He said, like, I have an idea, Yaakov. And I said, what? Stickers.
Amazing. You know, those of us who teach kids chess, the hardest thing to do is to get them to write down all their moves. But maybe this stickers idea you should patent, and we could use it with our kids.
Yes.
Well, good job. Congratulations on your victory today, and we wish you the best in the rest of the
Thank you very
tournament.
much. Thank you.
Back to you, Jen and Yas.
Wow, what a great victory by Jakub Noah. It's nice to see, and I know it must be confusing for some of the viewers at home when he says, I tried to play this like it was a blitz game.
Right.
But what he's saying is this is the type of combination that he would see in blitz because he's so good that he sees these quick combinations in blitz.
Right.
But with the pressure with the tournament game, sometimes you actually reduce your blitz level and play.
Well, it's nerves. I mean,
Yes.
nerves in time trouble in tournament games. He obviously he knows all the combinations in those moments, and sometimes you go, gosh, how could I have not played that move? I would make it 9 times out of 10 in blitz. And sometimes you have to relieve the pressure by just saying, okay, it's not so serious. Let's treat it as a blitz game.
Exactly, like we're in the Skittles room at the World Open and it's 2
Right.
a.m. Yeah,
That's right.
it's
Just have
like-
some fun here. But I was delighted to hear about Roman Djindjiashvili, Grandmaster Djindji, longtime dear friend of mine, is teaching Jakub and really inspiring him. We have something on our demo. Maurice is mentioning that Bishop E5 F4 variation has appeared in the game between the two Alexes.
Well, something
Shabalov
like
and-
it.
Oh, okay.
It's a little different.
Is
but
it
yeah.
a little bit off from what we looked at?
While you're pulling that up, let me take a quick tweet by Bronco70 using the hashtag US Chess Champs. He asked, who in this tournament has played it the most number of times? Well, we did discuss this in the broadcast, Broncos, so we can tell you're not taking all your time off work to watch this, but we do appreciate your question nonetheless. And the answer is Joel Benjamin. Joel Benjamin is playing for his 26th time.
Wow.
And Larry Christensen, close behind, playing for his 25th time.
I was aware of Joel. Joel is like this Iron Man who played something like 20 plus tournaments in a row, but I didn't realize that Larry had played so many. That's truly remarkable, outstanding.
Great achievement.
Exactly, truly. So the players did reach this when we got this position between Shabalov and Onishuk. The third seed, Alex Onishuk, did play this move, Bishop E5. And this is where we were looking at that line with F4, but that would have been allowed D1. So what happened was Rook D1, C6, F4, Rook D5. And the computer says these black pawns, just like the Saints, are marching in.
Very nice, and kind of similar to your tie color as well. And I heard we have a
Blood on the
tweet
street.
from Mr. R. Sinkfield, and he wonders, where did you get that beautiful tie?
Well, Rex, recognizing a gap in my wardrobe, rushed to fill it, offered a burgundy tie on loan, which he made very clear. And I just want to say, Rex, this doesn't mean we're dating.
Burgundy, the new black. And we also have some interesting development in the Sevian game. We really thought that was in the bag for Jorge Zamora Haspoon.
Yes, indeed. Isn't it?
But it looks like Sevian
As laid a cunning
might be
trap.
holding on to things somehow here.
Oh my goodness, he must have laid a cunning trap. When we have left it, remember when we left it in a position like this, and I said this move, Rook F8, should seal the deal? Well, Sam came up with this one. How about that? F6, then came E6, knight takes F5. This all looks H4. Interesting move. Okay, king came to G6. King H2. Oh dear. Well, I am confused by this.
So after
endgame.
knight takes F5, you thought that he was more likely, he was just going to start pushing the pawn immediately? What did you think here?
Well, no, actually, I thought after F6 he was going to capture the pawn.
Just to capture, okay.
Yeah, I
you
thought
thought capturing was the easy way.
Well, sure. I mean, win a pawn whenever you can if you don't see mate.
But E6 is quite logical too, because that pawn looks super strong. So how did this happen? So knight F5, so H4 is a little befuddling. Like, that move doesn't seem to make a lot of sense because it's now a target.
True that, and I assume Jorge thought that after something like rook here, followed by E7, he was just going to wrap things up and win on the spot. The problem is black's king is really close. So after a move like rook e8, king g6, e7, king f7, and black survives.
Exactly.
So somewhere, Jorge must have thought that, okay, after h4, black has no moves.
Well, that's true. I mean, why can't we just move our king in slowly?
And that's the reason why. Knight dropped back to e7.
Ah, now you're switching places here.
Right.
You're going to be playing king f5 next.
Precisely so.
But even then, we got to have some chances because we're going to play rook f7 and snap off g7 if you go for that direction. But let's see, what are they playing in the game?
Rook e8, knight came to d5, and again, this knight is really being a pesky beast, attacking the pawn perhaps from this side and always hoping to be able to play king f7 when necessary. Ooh, how about that one? Knight c7, very nicely guarding the promotion square, at the same time attacking the pawn on e6. Ooh, rook here, e5. I think Jorge has really messed this up badly, and the computer does agree that black is very close to creating a fortress in this ending with these two very healthy pawns, g7 and h6. I would assume a move like knight e6, and after, for example, rook check, king back, black is just hoping that he could play king g8 and knight f8 and keep it all together. And Sam snatching a draw from the jaws of defeat.
And certainly Jorge Zamora Hasbun here looks very disappointed. Although Sam Sevian just looks
Looks
okay
like,
now.
like he just got a Christmas gift. Okay, rook h8, and Jorge looks like he's in a little bit of time trouble.
Well, looks like this one is very likely to go into the draw zone. Now let's take a look at our Onishuk game, which is beautiful to watch. Even though it looks like many roads are strong for Onishuk, it's just such a pretty constellation of pieces with those pawns. Really, it's the pawns that are pretty.
Space Invaders, right?
Yeah.
Darn it.
So let's take a look. Where are we at in that game?
Well, when we left it, remember we left it after this move f4. Shabalov desperately trying to create as many chances as he can.
Rook d5, okay.
Queen dropped back to g6, but now the bishop could drop back, blocking the check to the king at the same time, getting out of pre from e5. Check on g8. And here we have it in this moment. Well, we're looking at bishop e7, I'm sure. Now the king is really getting nicely comforted. Perpetuals are going to be very hard to find when you've got a rook and bishop that can block those checks. So I think Onishuk well on his way to victory in this crucial game, because it will set up a matchup between our number 1 seed and our number 3 seed for tomorrow.
Right, and that king could just march right to the center of the board if you keep checking us. So if you play queen b8 check,
show me the variation.
We could play something like king c5, and then if, then you have queen c7 check.
Which is a little annoying, because you end up...
Although, I mean, it just seems like all these variations are winning, because even here, if we play king d4 or something and queen takes e7, I mean, probably still winning. Maybe c2, rook takes d2 check, but maybe the other way, the b2. I mean, how can you continue to defend here? You know, we're playing rook a1 next. You have no more checks. Well, I guess you do have some more checks. You could play queen b4 or queen f6 check.
Not the right technique.
Still requires some calculation, but the checks run out fast. And we've got some news from Maurice Ashley on
board number 1.
No, actually, yeah, we just have some facial expressions from Maurice Ashley, and he's showing us that we should take a look at this game between Irina Krush and Angelina Belovskaya. It has simplified into a pawn endgame, and let's take a look at how this happened.
When we left it, we were in this position. Irina went directly into this king and pawn endgame. She calculated the win. So c4, this was the win that she had calculated. And away she went and showed us her excellent calculating technique. Here, let's see, this black king needs to be in the square, and it's not. So white can simply win the game by king coming back, or
Well,
maybe
you
even
do
king
have
here.
to worry about I'm just trying to see, like,
So if you play g5
yeah.
here, g4, king here. This is a cute one. What you want to do is maybe draw black's king to the h3 square so you can queen with check. So for example, let's say we go here, 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 king h3, and now you queen with check.
And that's goodbye.
That's
And I think the
goodbye.
reason your move wasn't as good is because maybe there's a g1 with check. Is that the reason? Let's see.
Sorry,
So
what?
when you played king d4 at first,
Right.
is there a difference there?
No, I think the reason here is the king could maybe come back. Aren't we in the square in this case?
Yes, okay. So the other move kind of shoulders the king.
Precisely so. Shoulders the king. I like that.
Yeah.
Blocking.
Stole it from Dvoretsky, who probably took it from someone else.
Stole it from me.
He stole it from you.
No, he didn't. Mark is a little bit older than I am, so yeah. He stole it from somebody very worthwhile, I'm sure. But
No doubt.
But a very, very important victory for Irina. And this move, king d5, she has played king d6, by the way. This still looks like it should lock
Similar
up the game.
principle, because the king also can't come in. As long as the king can't come in to the defense, she should be winning. And it looks like we have a result. No, are they still playing, or is the result in? Yes, we do have a result in this game. So Irina Krush
has won.
4-0, joining Gada Kamsky, and our arbiter here, Frank Guadalupe, setting the kings in Irina's favor. So fantastic round.
Wow.
We had a lot of fun as usual, and we saw the two frontrunners in the women's championship and the championship increase their leads. And we want to mention to everybody watching online that we have on-demand replay at uschesschamps.com/video, including the first hour in case you missed it, and that will be available this evening. And we're going to be back tomorrow with more action. There's going to be a free day on Wednesday, but tomorrow, Tuesday, we are going to be back. And I'm Jennifer Shahade with Grandmasters Yasser Seirawan and Maurice Ashley from the St. Louis Chess Club. And we will see you tomorrow for more U.S. Championship action.
Thank you for joining us.